to call this thing?
I got it. Okay. Incredible, new, fantastic, astonishing, mighty, original, uncanny, sensational podcast.
I'm just going to put down infamous.
Hello and welcome to Infamous, the audio podcast. This is Brandon, or Mutilus on the forum.
And this is Parker. Go by Tweak on those forums.
This is Jeremy. I go by Peter Parker, Amazing Spider-Man on the forums. The only one. / hashtag.
Wouldn't that be like Spider-Gar Managon? Wouldn't that be your name if you were Spider-Man on the forums?
That was like the last month, okay? I'm over them. They're dead to me. I deleted all those accounts.
Okay.
They're fucking dead to me.
I like to imagine you just have 11 forum accounts.
11?
Dumber than the last.
Like 27. Each one more special than the next.
Alrighty. I don't think we have any announcements today, do we? No. So let's get into it. We got the news. News.
Okay. All right. Let me stretch out the big old breath of air. There was a lot of news. So let's go ahead and get to it. We got the mini extravaganza where Atomic Mass Games profiled a lot of stuff, primarily around their upcoming models, a lot of their art. So I'm going to talk just briefly about the teased new models that we've seen either in person and some different art that we know of now, some concept stuff, and then we're going to slow down and talk more specifically about cards and things, because we also got a bunch of those. So new models that we know are coming out are the Lizard. He's coming up out of the sewer. Looks awesome. Kraven the Hunter. Lizard and Kraven, we had no idea they were coming. Probably spider foes, amongst other things, but they're now confirmed in the game. They have models that have been painted. We have art for the X-Men villain that's going to be in the box with Phoenix. It is Cassandra Nova. So Jean Grey is coming with Cassandra Nova, which was blew me away, because what a strange, very obscure villain to pick from their fiction. And this is 100% true. Right after Brandon and I have that conversation about Cassandra Nova, I'm washing dishes the next day, and all of a sudden Brandon calls me. He's like, "Dude, you've got to see the stream." And I go, "Why?" I was like,
Well,
go ahead.
I want to preface this. The whole reason that I called him was because he said this character is so obscure it makes no sense that she was being released, because she's not in the comics hardly ever. She's only in like 10 total issues. And then I said, you know who has been in like the comics for years and years and years? A character like Omega Red. Like, they could do him. Yeah.
If you wanted to pick an obscure but really common X-Men bad guy. And then the next day,
you said Omega Red's been in the comics like 5 times as often.
Yeah.
As she has. And then I just opened Twitch randomly, and literally as I open Twitch, he just picks up the Omega Red model. I'm like, oh.
So heard it here first. Parker called Omega Red coming at us, which is kind of weird because it's like they scraped the bottom of the barrel first. I don't know why, but they're definitely reaching down deep to the bottom of that. But the last one we got was Blade. So likely another unaffiliated character, because or maybe they might talk about supernatural kind of bad guys and good guys. We'll see, maybe with the Scarlet Witch, something like that. But
Parker, who would come with Omega Red? I memean, he's probably going to be a solo model because how big he is. But if they were good, like, does he have a partner in crime or anything?
Sometimes,
because I only know him from the animated show where him and Lady Deathstrike show up, but not the same time.
Yeah, well, Omega Red is like, he's often associated with like Weapon X characters, so you see him with Wolverine a bunch. But yeah, like, he shows up with Lady Deathstrike some. He's kind of one of those. He was a mutant that was experimented on, so he's but with the Russian version basically of Weapon X. Instead of the Canadian.
Ooh.
So
They could release him with Colossus,
Yeah,
There you
maybe.
the Metal
That-
Boys from
That
Russia.
makes sense. A lot of variation. They come up with they really get really creative with their Russian
mean,
characters.
That's the thing about they just get coated in
Yeah,
metal. That's why
coated
they're
in
good.
metal and painted red.
Mhm.
So yeah, we also know there's a Blade model coming, and I only want to play the Blade model so that I can say as soon as somebody tries to kill him and they whiff, I want to be able to say out loud, some motherfuckers always try to ice skate uphill. I really want to say that really badly. So I'm excited.
I do really like Blade's model. And it's not even for like his jumpy pose and the swords and everything, which a lot of people like. I love the hands reaching up to get him. Like that's my favorite part of the Blade model. There, he's just like, "Fuck you guys."
Yep.
Blade was the first.
like it.
This is important. Blade was the first DVD I ever owned.
Good choice.
I bought from a store. I
Ooh.
bought from a store, and then I owned it.
Mhm.
And I said, I own this DVD of Blade now. Yep.
I did the exact same thing. It was like a big deal to me when I bought my first DVD when I moved
Mhm.
out. Guess which movie I bought?
Blade.
Galaxy Quest.
Oh,
Nice!
that's another
Good choice.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah. The second DVD I bought was Van Helsing.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Oops.
I love that movie.
Really?
It's such a fun
Ooh.
movie. It's
Frankenstein
not
is cool.
cinema,
Oh, okay.
but it's really fun.
Uh,
It's got good acting in it. Good overacting.
speaking of things that's technically fun, did you guys ever see the third Blade movie, Blade Trinity?
Yeah.
Oh,
that was by far my favorite because that was my introduction to Ryan Reynolds. That's the first movie I ever saw
Oh,
with
yeah.
Ryan Reynolds did it. And when he is being
Aw.
interrogated by Parker Posey, who was the best vampire in any of the Blade movies, and she's trying to she's showing how vicious he is, and she's torturing him, and he's mentally struggling, and he looks at her and he goes, "Your hair is ridiculous." like that moment, I was like, "This is amazing! I want to see this guy in everything he touches."
I
love
thought that was Dane Cook.
Oh, my God.
Because I had never seen Ryan Reynolds before. I
Yeah.
just assumed it was Dane Cook because
Yeah.
that's who he looked like.
He did. I will say, I think Hannibal King, his character from that movie, is basically his dry run for Deadpool. Like, he basically is just I'm just going to be Deadpool in this movie. It's 100% who he was.
He played Deadpool in that movie so that he could play Deadpool in Wolverine Origins, and he did that so that he could be Deadpool in Deadpool.
Yep. So you have that's 100% true. I think that is historically tracks. Oh, so other models that we got shown kind of again was Black Cat. We got some more looks of Black Cat. We usually see her once. The Mysterio model, of course. We got to see him. Really pretty model. Excited about that. We saw the Amazing Spider-Man model, which super cool looking. We're going to talk a little bit about his cards here in a bit. But those are
Very, very exciting model. I'm very excited for his model.
But yeah, those are all the models we saw, and it seems like, well, what a short list. It's a crazy long list. There's so many models we actually got to see. So let's get into the spoilers, and we're going to try to go here in order of how long we might talk about these things, but I have no idea because there's so many.
It's news to me.
I tried to make it in such a way that maybe we've already processed some of these, and maybe they're a little bit less to talk about. But we'll see. Maybe we can't. Maybe I couldn't even possibly know. The first one is Domino's card, and it actually got spoiled the day after we made our last podcast. And so we found out a little bit about her. I believe, I'm actually going to go out on a limb, I'm pretty sure that on this podcast, we actually thought she was going to be a 4-pointer after we saw the description of her powers, and she's a 3-pointer, which is the first thing that jumped out at me, because I'm pretty sure somebody said in this podcast
I'm pretty
4-pointer.
sure I said she was going to be
Okay.
3. I think we did talk about it, but I have always been confident she's going to be 3 points.
Well, after seeing her, I think she's a super strong 3-pointer. Maybe you guys can disagree with me. I feel like she's up there with Drax in terms of just really strong 3-pointer. But she's got 5 health on both sides. She's got 3 defenses, medium movement. She's got automatic pistols. That rapid fire, is that on a hit or wild?
Yeah, it's on a hit. So she is the bad version of automatic
Right.
pistols. which requires a hit
Mhm.
to trigger rapid fire.
She does have her grenade bounce, which is a 1 power energy, ignores LOS and cover, causes incinerate automatically, 4 dice, and has a wild explosive. So every character within 2 suffers 1. So a really efficient 1 power attack.
Yeah, that's actually really nice because she does generate a decent.
Right.
amount of
Also,
power.
it's a range 4. Like that's like she'll be able to put explosive way far away. And then Lucky Shot is her last energy attack. It's 6 dice, 3 power, range 3, and the character does not gain power for damage dealt by the attack, and it has stun on a wild, which is pretty cool. But I think she has a really like just solid stats all over, solid attacks all over, and then these abilities I think are great. Probability manipulation, which we knew a little bit about. If she makes an attack, defense, or dodge roll before resolve criticals, we were talking on the podcast when we were seeing her panel to play. We weren't sure how this was going to work, but before you resolve criticals, she can spend any amount of power for each power spent. They can treat a failure as a crit. So basically, she turns skulls into crits as many times as she gets skulls if she's able to spend the power for it before resolving criticals. So you get to, not only are you turning that skull into a success, but then you're getting an extra dice on top of it. So,
Jeremy, do you have anything you want to say about this?
It's a crazy reality stone. It's fucking crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So specifically on this, it does only trigger when you roll the dice before crit. So if your critical dice become more skulls, you can't then use it again. So that's the only bad thing you could argue about this, which is obviously just a timing restriction, but it's, obviously very good. She's going to get to roll a lot of extra dice. When you do the math and realize that you have a 1 in 4 chance of critting, it's actually likely she'll be rolling a 5th die on most of her attacks.
Yeah.
Because, all of her attacks are 4 dice, it's just going to happen. Also being able to automatic pistols and rapid fire, it's going to increase the odds of her being able to rapid fire because she's going to get to roll more dice. I like it a lot. I wish that she didn't have the requires a hit to rapid fire. I really hate that. It just adds more super random chance into the game. It allows you to see more high spikes and low spikes. It just annoys me a little bit. And it's like, of all places that you could have done that, like, it's just one of those things, like, if you're going to get screwed over by random chance, like, you don't need to add that to more stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the kit. I love the abilities. Her attacks, I think, are... I said when I think about automatic pistols, it's not great. It could be better, but on this character, it's fine. And then... There are two attacks.
There is one more passive ability that's also, I think, super strong. You want to talk about like RNG and getting screwed by RNG. She's not exactly immune to it, but when she is attacking or defending, enemy characters do not roll additional dice for crit results on attack or defense rolls. I think that's a super strong passive, because it means that if she ever sticks that roll, unless they have recalibration matrix, like, they're not going to get out of it. Like, they're not getting out of it. And if they roll 4 crits, you're not automatically dying. Like, you feel like you're about to do whatever MODOK rolls 4 crits. She is, I think, the sum of her parts, I think, is going to be a very strong character.
I think she'll also be really good with spider foes, because if she can attack people, they don't get extra dice for crits. She gets to count skulls as crits, and then she can spend a power to reroll one of their defense dice. She's going to be really deadly.
Actually, one of the things I like about her, too, is that when you look at her kit, she doesn't generate power extremely well. I think that's how they try to balance her. It's not extremely well. She only has 5 health. She only gets 1 power for automatic pistols, and she might only get to shoot them once. And it's range 3. I think if you're going to use probability manipulation a lot, I think you're going to run low on power fairly often. However, there are lots of ways to fix this in lots of different factions. So playing her A-Force or Cabal or Inhumans, even
X-Force.
And where is she getting extra power in X-Force?
Well, she'll shoot her. She'll be able to re-roll her attack.
Oh, maybe get a rapid fire.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of her kit. That's one reason is how she is.
I'm excited to use her in Cabal, actually. I think she's going to be really fun in Cabal. I want a sticky 3-point model in Cabal because Zemo dies too fast.
Well, I mean, she's going to die faster than Zemo, I think, in a lot of games. Like, she doesn't have that hard defense, like, anywhere. Like, she's low health, she's low defense dice, so you're really just praying that you get a bunch of failures and skulls. I mean, yeah, they don't get to add crits to their damage roll, but that's not going to be a huge reduction in damage income.
One of the things I've noticed about Zemo is that if you only use him to run away, then he stays alive. But if you actually send him in, he's like a Maverick missile, right? You shoot him once, it does some damage, and then he usually just goes down. Is what I've seen usually.
I only find that he goes down when you get him outnumbered, and since he's so fast, he shouldn't be getting outnumbered. Like, yeah, if you're sending in to a point and there's 2 people there, then yeah, he's probably going to die. But 1v1, you have to invest a really powerful character to beat Zemo.
I still like Domino in Cabal. I think it'll be fun. I like all rapid fire models in Cabal. It seems really efficient.
Yeah, I think what will happen with Domino is you'll build up a well of power, and then you'll just kind of float that throughout the game. Because is it really the worst case scenario if you spend 4 power to get extra crits? Like, is that really that bad?
Right.
Like, it's like you'll just take it. Like, if you get that kind of a cool ability.
The thing with rapid fire models is they're one of the few models that can truly spike. Like, rolling 6 dice and catching one every once in a while is different than rolling 4 dice 4 times. Like, yeah, you might get one through, you might get one through, and then they fail their damage or fail their blocks, and then all of a sudden you blow them up. Like, rapid fire can do that.
Yeah, anyone that's played X-Wing knows that it's about getting the time that your opponent rolls bad and you roll well to line up, and the more times you attack, that's more likely to happen. Like, it's more opportunities for that high-low chance where you get a bunch of damage through. So even if you're going with a lower potential damage, you're getting more opportunities to get them to blank out.
Yeah, this makes me wonder because I love rapid fire and Cabal so much. Also rapid fire and Cabal, if you have some rapid firing models that are also Cabal models, our next one we're going to talk about, you can start doing things like re-rolling all those dice, which is super cool.
Because of Dark Reign.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think we're done with Domino.
All right, so let's go right into her. Let's go right into the Dark Reign lady herself, Cynthia Schmidt, Red Skull's daughter. Okay, so first thing, we know her card. The first thing that stood out to me, the card, is nothing about her rules. I love that her front side, she looks like manic and like she's about to like pop, and on the back side, she's the first backside card art that she has no damage on her. She has no visible. She has no visible damage. She's just going insane. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. She's a non-symmetrical character. She has 4 health on the front side, 6 health on the back. She is 3 points. She is 3 defense on physical and energy, but 4 for the mystic psychic defense. She has medium movement. She does have automatic pistol. This is the good one. The card art that we have here, I think, is a misprint or something. Because the card art that we've seen so far, it looks like her automatic pistol costs 4 power, which I do not think that's.
Oh no, that's definitely.
I do not think that's
they pulled it down.
Yeah. So if you're looking at some of the pictures, it might say that her basic attack costs 4 power, but that's not going to be the case.
That's funny. I didn't even notice that.
So, automatically as soon as she comes out of the bet, a rapid fire model in Cabal, even if you run her with her dad and, Red Skull's giving her that's a lot of power generation for her. And also maybe Dark Raining. Make It Personal is her second attack. It costs 4 and it rolls 6 dice, range 2, and on a crit and a wild insult to injury, basically she gets to immediately make a Make It Personal attack. Again, only the type changes from physical to mystic, which is awesome because she's just taunting you. So yeah,
this is almost identical. It's very similar to the was it the Godslayer attack or whatever the Angela's big attack is. It's very similar to that, except it's It's only range 2, and you don't have to get 2 crits. You only have to get 1 crit. It's a pretty solid attack. It's okay.
Yeah. I don't know how often you'll be able to use Make It Personal, but if you have a whole bunch of power on her somehow and you want to dump it, the nice thing is if she, like she said, if she is running with her dad, she might have a lot of power just sitting on her to make it personal fairly often.
Yeah, you have to assume she's getting 2 to 4 power a turn. Like, she's going to build up power really quick.
If you want to run her as the leader, we heard about the panel in the panel to play. We know about this, but basically during the cleanup phase, after scoring victory points, you roll a die for each objective token contested by an allied character. If the roll is a crit, wild, or hit, you push each enemy character contesting the objective away from the objective token short. So basically, you're forcing your opponent to have to move back to the objective token if you are contesting after players score.
Yeah, I think this is actually really important verbiage because they get pushed away from the token. We were hypothesizing that this would just be push them any direction, and that would have been crazy strong. That being said, it's still really important because, like, not being able to sit on a point through multiple turns, like, pushing them back means they're probably spending an action or a decent amount of power to get back to that point to contest it again. So if you are repeatedly pushing people off of points, that's a huge amount of action economy they're losing.
It's functionally like, it's almost, depending upon how close you are to winning, it's basically giving him a shaken token or something. They have to go back.
So
roll go ahead, Jeremy.
I was just gonna say the problem I have with her ability is, of all the things I love about the game, the random number generation stuff, where this may or may not happen, and it's a pretty big deal. I just don't like that on a leader. I don't like the randomness of her ability.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to look at your next
I'm with
turn.
you there too.
So yeah, I mean, if you're looking at priority, you're like, okay, if I kill this model, I get priority. Or if I don't, I mean, there's things that you can control. And then all of a sudden, I mean, that happens, and suddenly you're pushing models off, or you're not. I hate it. I hate it for a leader to have that.
I will say, at least this is a 50-50 roll. It's not like you need a wild, where it's like, well, if you pull off a couple of these, it's like randomly like punishing. It is a 50-50 roll, and you're probably going to be making a lot of them. And so you're probably going to see fairly close to a curve. But yeah, I totally agree. I hate like fundamental play abilities that are just randomly going to happen or not happen, and you have no ability to manipulate that. Like, it might be that pushing, Magneto is exactly what has to happen, and you have no control over that single die roll, and that's frustrating.
Yeah. The other thing that she gets if she on the same die roll is you roll a die for each enemy character holding an asset within 2 of an ally. If you get the die roll hit, wild, or crit, the enemy character immediately drops 1 asset token of your choice. So if they're holding multiples, you can make them drop just 1.
Yeah.
So,
very good. Also, this mostly depends on who has priority on how good that ability is. But yeah, again, being able to, like, a Thanos having to drop like a worthy hammer or something, like, there's all kinds of good stuff.
Do you guys think it just because this ability is a 50-50? Do you think Sin can't be played for affiliation, or do you think she definitely should be considered because it's so strong?
I think you should consider playing her. I think she's a good leader because 3-point leaders are fairly rare, and there's a lot of expensive characters in Cabal. And while Red Skull is awesome, he's not always what you need. And so I like that they're adding kind of more of a swarm tactic where you can take like a lot of cheap characters, because I think that she's going to be benefited if you have a lot of allies, kind of like criminals are. You want as many people as you can to take advantage of the leadership. Also, I don't think you'll play Sin and Red Skull at the same time very often, but
I think you can double down as well on her ability if you're not counting on it, but every model in your list pushes or throws a model. I mean, if you're always launching everybody off and then you get the special ability that she has every once in a while, it's like, okay, that makes sense. That's fine. You just can't count on any of it. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, also, like, even if you went into the game and you're just like, hey, I have this, it's going to help me, hopefully. But yeah, if you're like, all right, well, I'm just going to position assuming it's going to happen, then yeah, you're probably setting yourself up for failure. But if you just see it as extra, then it's like, okay, sure. Like, obviously, you want to try and, like, cause as many of these rolls as possible. Because you want to contest points that are... Because it doesn't say that you have to be healthy. You just have to contest. So you can put injured characters on points. You can make sure you have as many people within 2 of an enemy as possible. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. And as far as I can see, it doesn't say that these happen in a particular order. And so if you have a guy contesting a point and they're contesting a point, I believe that you can trigger the drop the objective token and then trigger the push because you choose the order of your effects.
Yeah, or you could push them into another friendly or something, and then have him trigger it to drop, something like that.
Right. Yeah. Not to mention, like, how many times can you line up other things? This will be very useful in a lot of situations because when they drop the token, you choose where to put it, so you could force them to drop it. Even if you can't pick it up, you could place it like forward and push them away, so they it's harder for them to get back to the token. Like, there's all kinds of stuff you could do. Like, maybe you place the token far away, and that way they have to, like, move to go get it or something. Like, there's all kinds of, like, game situation things that this will become more effective.
I was going to say, at least, if either of these things go off, your opponent is almost always going to have to sacrifice an action. Like, it is... on a coin flip, you're almost always costing them an action in order to continue to play the game with you. Yeah.
Because they have to move to the token or move back to the objective, or... they have to move back into range to attack you, even if they're just standing there attacking you.
Yeah.
And you trigger the push, like, well, hey, you're probably not in normal attack range anymore. But yeah, I think you're going to be extra punished if you don't have priority with this. So you want to have priority, but you probably also want a decent amount of models. So it's kind of like that Razor's Edge thing. Like, I think it's really about how you play it.
I mean, imagine if this ability just said stagger. I mean... because in a lot of ways, that's what it's going to do to you. You're going to be staggered.
Right.
Because technically it doesn't, but when the obvious play is, I still need to go get this objective.
Yeah.
Like, you basically are
staggered.
Yeah. Because, like, just Magneto's perfect example. Magneto holding the power core on the central objective, and you're like, cool, drop the objective pushed away, and it's like, okay. And you could place it in a spot where he can't get both.
Yeah.
So if Magneto has to then double move to move up, get the point, and then move back to the objectives, like, what? Yep. Like, that would be horrible.
Yeah,
like
bad.
You're just like, game over. Like, Magneto didn't do anything because he had to go get the points.
Yarp.
Yeah, that'd be terrible.
Or they activate another character to pick up their power core again, therefore Magneto didn't get to go first. Like, there's all kinds of ways that even though this technically doesn't seem massively game-breaking, it's going to affect the way the game is played a lot. And so I like it for that reason, because it's not about one specific time of it triggering, it's about affecting your opponent's plans. Like, it's just going to throw a wrench into everything.
Which I guess, I mean, it's chaos, right? Like, she's nuts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she's terrifying. In the Marvel Universe, she is scary as hell. Like, she really is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we didn't even get to the other ability. She does have Hit and Run, which is Green Goblin's ability. Basically, it's attack and then move for 2 power. Which is cool because if she has somebody in range for automatic pistols, she will likely be able to... Oh, no, she will always. She'll shoot them twice, get 2 power, then immediately hit and run for a second time. So she can almost always quadruple tap and move.
Yeah. So you'll get to double... Because she has the automatic rapid fire. She'll get to shoot them 4 times and still move away. And she, spoilers, she has stealth, so moving away is really good.
She has partner in crime with everybody's favorite, Crossbones. Basically,
Crossbones sucks!
Crossbones.
Excuse me, I need some water.
Within four, basically at the end of this character's activation, if she's within 4, a Crossbones can immediately activate. That could help, actually, with the priority game you were talking about, which is kind of nice. She could have 2...
Yeah, having a numerous amount of characters and also having priority. That's one way that you can
also, the fact that she does get to attack, she gets to contribute to attack, and then move also means she can oftentimes make the within 4 of Crossbones happen, while she's also doing other things. Mm-hmm. I think Partners in Crime isn't automatically going to put Crossbones in lists, but I think if you're looking at it going...
But Parker, if you move back... you're going to be too far away from Crossbones because Crossbones is just charging forward. Oh, just kidding, because he's still in your fucking deployment zone. He's so damn slow.
I think Crossbones is playable in the same way that the Power Stone is playable. Like, yeah, you put it in your list, I guess. But anyway,
so she can technically take 5 actions in one turn.
Yeah,
because she can do 4 attacks with auto pistol and then still move. Meanwhile, you can do her her boyfriend activation thing, and then Crossbones move twice, so you can perform 7 actions in one turn.
Yeah.
Is that worth playing Crossbones?
I don't know. I think it'd be I think it'd be like if you set up your objective to where you wanted to spread out a little bit, or if you thought Crossbones would be beneficial, like you said, for the priority bit. I could see it.
What if instead, because she's guaranteed generating 4 power if she gets to double tap, and then also I guess if you were also playing Red Skull, that could be 8 power, right? Because you do damage 4 times. So what about instead of playing Crossbones, we just play Follow Me? How about that? Like, is that better?
Like
I'm gonna quad shoot and then back up and hey, Magneto, go ahead.
Yeah.
Like that's
not nothing. Her last she does have stealth, and her last passive, Heir to the Wicked. When this character is damaged by an enemy or allied effect, after the effect is resolved, it is not dazed. Or if she isn't dazed when it happens, she gains an extra power. So she always gains an extra power when she gets attacked. When she gets damaged, and she gets an extra power if her dad tries to do something to her, which I think is wonderful.
If her dad tries to do something,
yeah, because if he casts, if he uses the tactics card, the Cosmic Configuration.
You're never gonna use Cosmic Configuration on Sin.
You say that now, but what if you really want that power?
I say that now. That is true. I am saying that now. You have to spend 2 power to use it.
Actually,
that doesn't even make sense.
Oh, actually, you could use the tactics card to pay health instead of power to make it personal.
You could do no matter the cost, which would be pretty sweet. Because no matter the cost, you could take 3 damage, gain 1 power.
Yeah, you don't get 1.
I guess you could take 1 to gain 1 and reduce the cost though. So if she takes 2 damage, she could play Make It Personal base for. Well, no, that's
Ooh, dude, how does this work?
No,
did we just figure out something?
Yeah, you'd have to do Make It Personal for 3. And you could do her. Yeah, you could play no matter the cost with 0 power on you, and then use Make It Personal because it reduces the cost by 3, and you gain a power.
Okay, but basically, I think it's Cosmic Configuration, Make It Personal, or if we see something else in Cabal that deals the damage to make a thing happen. But
right. I mean, obviously, we're going to get some more Cabal cards because we're getting a whole new leader.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
She will. Yeah, she'll likely. Because it's Sin, she'll likely have some sort of masochistic thing, a tactics card she'll benefit from.
Ooh. Do you think Carnage will be in Cabal?
No, I do not.
We could have both psycho killers in one
I really
faction.
don't think he will, because Carnage has never been in anything except he made his own little evil group in the Maximum Carnage series. So he has been in like a little anti-Spider-Man group that he made himself.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to be a team player with anything except Spider Foes.
Okay.
Speaking of Carnage, are we ready to talk about Carnage?
Let's do it!
So
I'm so excited.
So here we go. Carnage, we do not know what his backside does, but we do know his front side is a whopper.
That's true.
His front side is a 4-cost character, a medium move, 7 health, with the Kooky Dukes defense stat line of 5 physical defense, 1 energy defense, 1 mystic defense. And when I saw that, the first thing I thought was, oh man, you can reduce it to 0 with Incinerate. And then Jeremy said, wait a minute, no, you can't. In the rulebook, it says you can't reduce a defense below 0. And I said, immune to Incinerate. Carnage is immune to Incinerate. When he is attacked by an energy or a mystic attack, if he's incinerated, he does not care. So...
If you attack him with Mystic or Energy, he still gets to roll 1. Good job.
curiously, a lot of the people who have Incinerate also do energy.
Nice. Yeah.
But he has a physical attack, Symbiote Tendrils, which is a 5-die.
It's exactly the same as Venom's attack.
It auto bleeds in range 3, and then I love that it's called Maximum Carnage. His one that costs power is Maximum Carnage. It is an area 2 around himself, 5 power to do, 7 dice. Everybody's going to gain bleed that he touches. And then on I think it's a wild and a hit.
Wild
he
and
gets
a hit.
Rampage.
Rampage!
So
Rampage!
Rampage! After each attack is resolved, deal 1 damage to each other enemy character within 2 of this character. So basically, if he's with around 3 people, he will attack 3 people, and then each other person is going to take, what was that, 4 extra damage, right? Because you're going to attack the 2 other people, and when you do that, if each one of them rampages, basically every time you rampage, you're doing damage to the other people that you're not actively targeting.
Yeah, it's explosion from you.
But it's over and over because it's every single time you roll a rampage.
It's every time it triggers. Yeah.
So, it's pretty darn cool.
So I like to poo-poo AoE attacks, but this is scary. Like, this is a legitimate AoE attack.
Yeah.
Also, we know he's on a medium base, right?
Yes.
Pretty confident. I can look at the model
He's
right
size
here.
2.
Yes, it is a medium base. Which means he is noticeably faster than most characters. He's a medium plus medium. Yeah, I'm very excited. So, auto bleeding is just awesome. Like, the amount of extra damage you get from auto bleed, because nobody ever shakes bleed. It's so awesome. 7 dice. It is physical though. Costs 5. I'm pretty excited though. Parker, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Sadistic Glee is a 2-cost power. During the next attack action that he makes, you add 2 dice to the attack rolls. So that could work on Maximum Carnage.
Yes! 9 dice AoE!
After each attack is resolved, if the attack contains any fail results, this character suffers a damage. So he hurts himself because he's going crazy.
I care not.
Yeah. But even if he hurts himself, if he gets to paint the town red, basically paint the town red is his next ability. Costs 3. If he dazes or KOs an enemy character with an attack during that activation, he can pop the superpower, and then he advances short, removes all damage, and makes a Symbiote Tendrils attack.
Mm-hmm.
He can only do that once. Poor baby.
Per turn.
Yeah. Poor baby.
Get some!
Yeah. So the fact that he pays 3 for an extra attack, it has a big stipulation. He has to daze somebody, but if he happens to do that with a Sadistic Gleed Maximum Carnage, that does cost 7 power. But
it is exactly like Angelic Assassin, except he also heals the full.
Yeah. Ugh, so good. He has the second arch nemesis character, also in Spider Foes, is for Eddie Brock. So any Venoms on the board, he gets to modify or reroll fail results, and may reroll any number of attack dice always. At the start of his activation, if there is an Eddie Brock within 3 of him, his first action must be an attack, targeting impossible. So interesting. But it's only
yeah. Conveniently, this is the second arch nemesis, and they're in the same faction.
Curious bit. When Venom attacks someone, you can't reroll, right?
Correct.
So is it okay? So I'm reading the sentence, and I guess this is the one because it says the sentence reads: "This character may reroll may modify or reroll fail results, and may reroll any number of attack dice." So
he's attacking.
Yes,
Venom.
only attacking.
You can reroll your dice versus Venom, not Venom. You can't reroll your defense dice when Venom is attacking.
Right. Why would they print that ability? But now it makes sense. Okay,
yeah.
And then his one of his other 3 passives. Symbiotic Serial Killer. When this character is attacking, the defending character does not add dice to its defense rolls for crits, so they do not get to spike on crit on defense. And then also, of course, Wall Crawler. he feels kind of like Medusa for the number of rules he has, the number of things he does.
He's got some rules. So Dune Prophecy, right? That's what we're doing. Dune Prophecy.
What
14 dice AoE 2.
I hope he's like 3 health on the backside. That'd be funny.
I was gonna say I think
hope
he'll
not.
be 5. That puts him at a 12, 6/6.
5.
He'll have 5 on the back.
But Venom has 13.
Uh,
Why would he have less than Venom?
because he heals
Because he's not
full,
Venom.
and he's also not Venom.
Yeah, but Venom heals on one of his attacks. And he counterattacks you to heal. I assumed he was going to be 13 just like Venom.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think. Well, look at just the mass, just his bicep mass alone would tell you that it's not. He's not Venom. Okay, he's not quite as swole, is what I'm trying to tell you. He's not as swole.
Well, actually, Carnage is stronger than Venom. Like, noticeably so.
Well, noticeably.
Like in terms of pure strength, Carnage is noticeably physically stronger than Venom. That's why Spider-Man and Venom always have to team up to beat Carnage.
Well, I don't know anything about any of that. I'm just looking at the picture here.
I'm looking at the picture. He's not as big.
Just saying. I mean, literally, he's not as big. Okay.
Venom just eats too much creatine. That's why he's just swole.
Do you guys basically? There's the one thing I will say this about him: his stuff looks super good, but you have to get it all to work. If you're attacking somebody who only has 1 health, you may not get to paint the town red because you may not have enough power after he does 1 damage. Like, that's one of the things about paint the town red.
Well, but you would know that going in,
right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing about paint the town red. At first, you're like, "Oh wow, paint the town red's so strong." You're like, well, if he doesn't have a lot of power at the start of the turn and he's trying to paint the town red, he's going to have to take somebody from healthy down to 0, which is totally possible. But that's what he's kind of got to do to paint the town red, which is interesting.
I don't like how he only has the 1 defense in each of those. Some of the killers in the game, i.e. MODOK, just chases this bitch down.
Yeah, but you can kind of punish him for doing that. Honestly, though, is it that much better to have 2 in that stat? Like, does it really change the math that much?
Most models have 3.
A lot of models have 3, but if you were talking about models that have a weakness, like Venom isn't just running away from people with energy attacks. Like, the difference between 1 and 3 is noticeable. It's a noticeable amount of survivability, but, like, it's not crazy. I would certainly rather him be 4... I would rather him as Venom stat line than this. I'd rather him be 4-2-3 than 5-1-1. Like, I would prefer Venom.
I like the spice of it.
I don't think the 5-1-1 is...
I think it's interesting.
That much of a
I think it's
detriment.
interesting. I like the spice of it, like just the idea of he can be so swingy on that.
I had assumed...
That's cool.
Yeah, I had assumed he was going to be like Deadpool, where it's like, well, he's just so fucking crazy you would never try and invade his mind, so it doesn't matter. Like how is that, like, any difference? I always hate, like, it's just all about interpretation. Like,
Yeah.
like, when's the last time Professor X tried to control Venom? Like, that just doesn't happen, right?
Yeah, because in the comic books, Carnage is not like the Joker, where his psychosis like debilitates him also. Like, Batman will oftentimes play on his enemies' psychosis and work it against themselves. He plays the mind game. But Carnage, that never works in Carnage. He'll just fucking murder you. Like, he's just like, I just want blood. More blood. Like, is it blood yet? Like, I want blood.
Yeah.
So he's just an insatiable homicidal maniac. So he's a sociopath, right? So I think the bringing him down to 1 Mystic Defense just sounds like they just wanted to. I think it doesn't sound like it's very thematic. Because the other crazy character we talked about is Sin, and she has 4 because she's crazy.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Like it's just like a double standard I don't understand at all. And so if they did it for a game balance, then I guess I get it, but I don't think they did it for game balance. Like, we've already shown that they're probably going to put whatever stats they want to put on the
Mhm.
cards. I feel like it was very much like what we're about to talk about in a second is why they happened.
Yeah.
But we'll get onto that later. Is there anything else we want to talk about Carnage?
The one thing I would say about Carnage is he actually has to play fair. Like, he has to wait for his activation to get his stuff. Once he activates, his stuff is done. Unlike characters like Venom and Sabretooth that will heal and attack you and move and all that kind of stuff, he actually plays fair in everything except he heals all the way to full. But if you are careful about what you're doing, if you don't feed him his Paint the Town Red, then you can play around Carnage, I think. I like that about him. Is they gave him something that's really imbalanced if it works in his favor. But you can also, but he has to activate. He gets 2 activations, then he's it. If he paints the town red, he gets an extra attack. But that's what he got. That's what he does.
Yeah, they gave him a lot of really win big punishing effects,
Mm-hmm.
but then they locked it all behind playing fair.
Right.
So it's like you know what's going to happen. It's hard to pull off, and it's very straightforward. But if it happens, it's very good. So I like that.
We do. Do you want to talk about his tactics cards?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. So we know 2 of his tactics cards. We don't know what their names are, actually. I don't think. All I have is the text. But they're both for Carnage unaffiliated. So if you put Carnage anywhere, you can play these. First one is he can spend any number of power to play, to choose a character within 3 for each power spent, and each one of those characters has root. So he can root a character for a power within range 3. As many times as he wants to when he plays the card.
Yeah, that's actually really good. Root's really underrated right now, and it's just because no one has Root except for Groot.
Mm-hmm.
So Root says it's basically Loki all the time.
Yeah. It's really good.
So you have to spend an extra power to use a non-passive superpower. So what's the next one?
His next one is he can spend 4 power during his activation, choose an enemy character within 4, advance the chosen character short, and after the advance, he immediately gets to do a Tendrils attack. So if he has 4 power, he can move somebody short and then attack them. Maybe get some of that power back.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. It's basically Face Me, but the other side of Face Me, because he attacks you.
Mm-hmm. It does cost 4 power, which is not nothing, but it's also an advance. So if they're immune to pushes or throws, he doesn't give a shit. They're advancing. So,
but how many cards say make an attack versus someone you want to make an attack against? Like it's super rare, which is almost the reason that Drop Off was banned.
Yep.
But this is a single character playing a single card that gives them another attack action. Like that's huge. So I think it's well worth 4. I'm honestly surprised it doesn't cost 5.
It's also nice that if you're doing that, you're pulling somebody in, then you might, with that one attack, you might get some more power back. Maybe you're painting the town red later. It's strong.
You're also bleeding them. Guaranteed.
That's true. Yeah.
I like it. I like both these cards.
I think I like them because they seem highly playable, but also not like, it's a card that automatically makes him in every single list. I better put him in because the card's so good. Yeah.
It's not last minute save.
Yeah. Or like Lethal Protector is one of those cards. Like you might play Venom because of Lethal Protector, right? But these cards are just like strong, but you're not playing it because of them. What do you think, Jeremy?
I think you guys have said pretty much everything.
Okay.
His cards are good. He's good. I do like the idea he can attack with one of his cards. That's really cool. I mean, he's good all around. For 4 points, I think you get it. You get 4 points worth. I think he's cool.
For sure. So moving on to the other Spider-Foe card we got the front side of Mysterio. Man, what an awesome looking model and card. He costs 3. He has 6 health, and he's movement short, but he does have a bigger size base. Is it a large? I think it's a medium base. So it'll be.
I think it's
medium. So it'll be kind of like Doc Ock in that way.
Nope, he's on a small base in the picture.
Really? Okay.
He's just slow.
Cool. He has another weirdo stat line: 1 physical, 1 energy defense, and 5 mystic. But he does have a passive ability later that will help mitigate that to a certain degree. He has 2 mystic attacks. The first one is his basic, a hypnosis gas, 4 dice, 3 range, and if the attack deals damage after it is resolved, he can advance a character short. That's awesome.
So,
go ahead.
I actually want to talk about his defensive stats.
Oh, okay.
You jumped right into his
Okay,
attacks.
go for it.
This is why I have a problem with the Carnage thing, is because this feels like they only did 115, 511 because they're mirrors, and they wanted them to just mirror each other, and because they're probably coming in the same box.
Yeah.
And so it was like this cute little thing they did, but I don't like it. It feels really lazy to me, and the only reason that Carnage has the stat line he does is because Mysterio has the stat line he does. And it's just annoying to me. That's why I said something earlier.
Mysterio's other attack, Curtain Call, is a range 2, 6 dice, costs 4 power. If it does damage, the target character is, if it's size 2 or less, is immediately thrown. It also has looks like it's hard to see in the resolution of this picture. Is that a critical stagger? It doesn't look like a wild. Is it a wild stagger? Okay.
It's a wild stagger.
So it's a wild stagger. So a wild stagger only on range 2, though, with 6 dice. So Hypnosis Gas seems super duper good. Being able to do that at range 3, just move him up. If you get him within range of something, it's going to be really hard to expect anyone to stay there unless they're constantly rolling defense well against it. But
yeah, I mean he moves people a lot.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he is short ranged, and he basically has like a weaker version of Doctor Strange's basic attack.
His power, Tips and Tricks, when an enemy character ends its movement within 3 of him, he may use the superpower, cost 3. He rolls 4 dice. The enemy character suffers a damage for each crit and wild, it looks like. Man, the resolution is bad on this. If this superpower deals at least 1 damage, then you immediately move that character short again. So
yes, it's crit and wild.
So basically, this is like the other kind of trap movement stuff we've seen before. However, this interrupts your opponent's turn, and immediately you get to advance them short while they're in the middle of their turn. That seems crazy strong to me.
It is really good.
Like the idea that your opponent's like, I'm gonna plan on doing this for the rest of my turn, and then in the middle of it, you're just like, let me pay 3. If I roll a crit or a wild, then your turn's just screwed. Oh man.
So it's if they end a movement within 3, it does cost 3 power, and he's not getting any power back for using it. I think it's actually gonna be hard for this guy to get a bunch of power, but and you also advance them only short. If they move like super close to you, you probably can't get them out of range. But they'd have to get really close.
Yeah. Speaking of power, Master of Illusions is one of his passives. Every time he rolls dice, after the effect is resolved, he gains 1 power if you rolled at least 1 blank. So any blanks get him a power. And also, he uses Mystical Defense when making dodge rolls. So he has a 5-die dodge roll.
Yeah. I feel like this was an oversight on previous characters that use non-physical defense for other stuff. Like, you just throw stuff at Enchantress and she melts because she's got 2 physical defense. Like, I feel like they learned that lesson after they made the Enchantress rules, and then they're like, well, we better do something about this.
Yep. So speaking of Enchantress, he does have a very similar, maybe, is that identical? Smoke and Mirrors. When an enemy character targets him with an attack, this character may use its Mystic Defense regardless of the attack's type, unless the character pays 2. So that's identical to Enchantress. And he also has Stealth and Flight. This guy seems really difficult to remove easily. Like it's gonna cost you to do it. If you try to get close to him, well, already, if he has 3 power, you're not going to kill him if you have to move into range 3. If you have to move into range 3 and he has 3 power, he's going to be immune because he has stealth. So you move into 3, he's going to immediately move you back out. I guess no, sorry, it does require a crit or a hit on 4 dice. Crit or a wild. So on a crit or a wild, you're not attacking him, and you might just be losing.
Well, to
everything.
me, that's not the problem. It's that you walk up to an objective he's contesting and get moved away. That's my problem.
Right.
I think that's the only time you're really going to see this used. He's going to be holding a corner point, and he's going to punish people that try and come up and get him off of it. But at the same time, like, it's only really going to work the one time, right? Because next turn you move up, he does it again, and then you just move back, right? Like, he's not going to have 9 power. Like, he's not going to generate that quickly.
I think if you blank on his attacks, he's getting 2 on top of whatever he's doing, right? Because if he stands still and Hypnosis gases twice, if he does any damage, he's getting that power, and then if he's blanking, he's getting that. So he has to.
But
fail.
that means you're already within 3 of them, so they don't have to move into range 3.
Right, but if he does damage with the Hypnosis gas, he just moves you right back out, and now you have to get back into ticks and traps again. I think he's going to be.
No, he's good. I mean, I'm not saying he's not good. I'm just saying that tricks and traps is a very powerful effect, but he's not going to generate a crazy enough amount of power to like repeatedly use it. It's not going to be like Magneto's force projection, where it's like, okay, well, every time he attacks, you're going to have force projection ready. But yeah, it is really good.
Yeah. He also has 6 health. That's pretty good.
I assume he's actually going to be very squishy on the back.
That's possible. Yeah. Also, because like his character, like after you get through his illusion, he's just a guy. So
yeah, and that's the problem. Like if you get up there, oh, and there's also like Sabretooth is a good example. Sabretooth moves long, so he can move from outside of 3 to basically base to base with him, and then if you damage him, he just moves back towards you. So like he has no answer for getting rid of Sabretooth.
That's true.
Like Sabretooth just eats him alive because he gets in there and he's like, I spend 2 power, and you just fall down because he's like pierce, bleed, 5 die attacks, just melt this guy.
I like that the illusionist is ruined by the mutant with super good senses. I like that.
Yeah, that's funny.
Uh,
Jeremy, are we losing you? You look like you're asleep.
No, I'm just listening to you guys talk.
Okay. What do you think? Why don't you talk?
I think he's very complicated. I think he's probably very good. But the key here is, will he ever have enough power to do everything he needs to do without just already being dead? Again, I think he's the right time, the right play. Like, you're screwed. He does that and walks you back out, and you're done. That entire turn that you were planning on having a model do something doesn't do something. That's a big deal. But I love models that are 3 points and interesting.
Yeah.
He fits in the gap of like, we're going to do something cool. We're only going to charge you 3 points for it. So, take him, try him. I like those models.
Yeah. The biggest problem I have with him is that his tricks and traps, like, I can't count how many times I've used Counter-Strike and done 0 damage. Like, a 1 in 4 chance 4 times is far from guaranteed. And this is such an important ability that, like, it's going to swing games on if it happens or not. And this is exactly, like, we just complained about Sin for doing the same thing. Like, he is so much worse than she is at the same problem. It's like, well, he's good if you roll the wild for stagger, or you do damage on his Counter-Strike, or if you roll a couple blanks in your attacks and get a bunch of extra power, or if your opponent doesn't have enough power to, like, let you, to make you not use your Mystic, and then you roll good defense dice on 5 dice. Like, there's a lot of ifs on this guy.
Yeah,
and
this reminds me of critical hit characters from War Machine, where people are like, "Oh man, look at this thing! If he rolls a crit, then you automatically die." You're like, "Yeah, but you have to roll a crit." Yeah. I hate that. Mm-hmm. I hate that. Ugh.
And he moves slow. That's pretty scary.
Yeah,
he's slow, and in the picture that they showed him in, he's on a small base, which would be the biggest oversight I think ever on their art department. So I assume he's going to be on a small base. So yeah, he's the only other Crossbones speed character, except he doesn't have aggressive. Crossbones is faster than this guy.
So quick.
I like the model. I like the model and the art and everything.
The
hopefully
he's
interesting.
He is definitely getting played. This guy's going to see the table.
Yeah. He's cool.
But yeah, I'm expecting like 4 hit points on the back. Because the whole thing about Mysterio is once you get through his bullshit, he's just a little like crybaby.
What would be cool is we haven't even seen his back yet. His back might be even that much more amazing. Like, he might have dumb stuff.
Yeah, 10 hit points, 5s across the board.
Or maybe,
Like,
maybe 5 hit points and then stupid like abilities that changed. Another Green Goblin type.
mhm. Yeah, I think he's going to be a lot weaker on the back. I think this is going to be one of those characters like you got to keep him healthy or else the game falls apart. Which actually fits his lore a lot. Like he's like you get through, you figure out that the illusions are happening and all of a sudden none of his shit works anymore because you know it's an illusion. All right. What's next, partner?
All right. We get to the main event. The
Oh.
thing we've all been waiting for. He's amazing. He's spectacular. It's the new Spider-Man.
Is he astonishing?
He is. No, that's the X-Men.
Oh, okay.
He is amazing, and he's sensational. Also,
There we go.
so this has been something I've been asking for a while. When we find out we were doing Peter Parker, I said, I hope he's a try-hard fighter, and he's such a try-hard fighter. Let's learn about him a little bit. He's 5 cost Spider-Man, speed, long, 6 health on both sides. His defensive stats are 4 physical, 4 energy, 3 mystical. So good. So, I think the speed long is worth talking about after we take a look at his attacks. Am I crazy, or do we want to stop and talk about this stat line?
He's on medium base, right?
I believe so, because it's pretty big, right?
It's correct. It's medium.
You didn't post the picture of the model, but yeah, it's medium.
Yeah. So, medium base, long mover. He's so awesome.
He is arguably the fastest character in the game now. You could make the argument Angela's actually faster because she can attack and move, but he's technically can cover the most ground.
Yes. Also because he's got some other stuff in his kit, in his attacks. So let's go ahead and jump into him. Spider Strike is range 3, 5-die attack. Is a regular strike, so he does gain all the power for it. And on a wild and a the resolution of this, I cannot stand how bad the resolution
Would
is.
you can open the original picture?
Yeah, but the original is not much better. It looks like a dark colored.
But I can read it.
It looks to
fine.
me.
I'll
It looks to
read
me like wild hit.
wild crit.
It's crit. Okay.
It's wild crit.
So wild crit. Momentum. Choose another enemy character within 2 of the target character. Place this character within 1 of the chosen character. This chosen character suffers a collision as if this character were thrown at him. Basically, he throws himself at somebody near the. Now I'm confused as I read it.
Okay, so choose an enemy character within 2 of the original target. Place this character within 1 of the newly chosen character.
Right.
The chosen character suffers a collision. No one gets thrown. They just suffer a collision.
I see. So basically,
he's using the momentum of the concept is, I believe, that he like web lines somebody, and on the way by somebody, he punches them.
got it.
And so like he's hitting and then ricocheting to a new person.
Right.
So the effect is he's effectively throwing himself into you, but he's being placed, not thrown. It cleans up a lot of the questions with Pounce, like line of effect and stuff.
Right.
So he's basically like somersaulting around and kicking people.
So perfect. I love it so much.
So
You're
not. One of the key words here is not a may. You have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
if you can choose another enemy model, yeah, you do end up next to that person.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Oh, no. You don't have to. You can choose to trigger dice effects. You don't have to trigger dice effects.
really?
If you choose to trigger momentum, you have to be placed. Yeah, you don't have to like bleed people and stuff.
Huh. Okay.
Except for like Venom. Venom does auto bleed on his attacks. Venom must bleed an enemy. But if, for example, Wolverine attacks somebody, you can choose to not trigger wild effects and not pierce and bleed. It just normally doesn't matter. You wouldn't want to not do it. So, yeah, you do not have to trigger wild effects. You don't have to throw people away with throw attacks. You can just leave them in melee and keep punching them.
Okay.
Unless it's not on the dice, like Black Panther has to, right? Yeah,
Right.
He has to push.
Yeah, we were actually talking about how it's kind of a debuff because he can't actually keep punching somebody.
So the other attack he has, which is so beautifully named, whatever a spider can, it is range 2, 8 dice, costs 5 power though, After this attack is resolved, he immediately advances, move medium. On a wild, he has catch. After the attack is resolved, you can immediately choose the interactive terrain feature of size 2 or less within 3 of him and destroy it, and it immediately, the opponent who you're attacking with whatever a spider can suffers a collision, as if the terrain were thrown into them, which is so perfect because he constantly is like weblining a manhole cover or a mailbox or a car or some awesome thing. I love this attack so much. Oh, both of his attacks are so beautifully thematic. They're great.
I think it's interesting that because we said this before, when they open up a new design point, they really hammer on it for a while, like the angelic ribbons kind of thing, or using your mystic as your defense for everything kind of stuff. So I think that this will be interesting if we start seeing a lot more people that throw stuff without technically throwing anything. It just delete terrain, cause a collision, move here, cause collision. I think it might be kind of unique to the web slingers, but it'll be interesting if they start putting this on other people.
Yeah, every like Spider-Man video game, this is actually how you do it, right? Like he shows up, he goes bap, 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 and then you shoot a web line off the screen, and on the end of it just appears like a fire hydrant, and you whap him, right? Like that's how you do it. It's so great. He does have a new team affiliation, with the Friendly Neighborhood Spider Team. It's for Web Warriors. Once per turn, during an allied character's activation, the character may spend 1 power and choose an enemy character within 2. That chosen character is immediately slow. If the chosen character already has slow, you can place that character within 1 of its current position and remove slow. So it's a place effect if they're slowed, and slow if it's not a place effect.
So this is awesome, right?
Yeah.
You get to actually use all webbed up, like, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
You got a new guy that can add slow to people that weren't hit by the original effect, and then also you can take advantage of it after you're done attacking people. Like if you know, like, well, I'm out of attacks, but I need you to not be where you're at, so go over here.
Yeah.
Actually, so let's see. Once per turn. Okay, yeah. So you can only do it once each turn, but you can use it on the same person, right?
Yes, it doesn't. Yeah, it's so.
Ooh, yeah. So you could, like, let's say go with Gwen. She could web someone up with this, slow them, and then Miles could swing in, move them, and then or attack them and then move them, and then later on you could go with Venom. Venom could then spend 1 to slow them again and attack them. It's pretty cool.
It's very themey
of
those spider people. It's very themey. Like you're really starting to feel like this web warrior thing as a reality of like, oh my god, everybody's stuck, slow, they're moving around everywhere even more than they did.
Yeah,
like that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
yeah. I feel like this is what Web Warriors. If I was going to translate like spider people into this game, this is what I wanted. I didn't want extra sensitive spider sense and pushing and pulling people off and winning an objective game. That's not what I pictured. I was just like, I want them to be webbing people's feet to the floor and then hitting them in the jaw. That's what I want. It's perfect. He does have Web Swing, which is Miles' ability. If he has 2 power, he can place within 3 of his current position. And then also his basic adds 2 dice, so he has more likely to hit momentum with that.
Yep.
So he has.
It's exactly the same, effectively.
Yeah. Which is so strong. It's so good. Yeah, it's so good. 2 power for 2 dice and a place 3 on a medium-sized base that also does an attack that might place him again. He could just be everywhere. It's so perfect.
Well, the Spider Strike odds of placing him, I would say, are pretty low. Because first off, it's requiring 2 dice to be certain effects, and then also you have to have a second enemy within 2 of the original enemy, and it's a lot of stuff. So yeah, that's not going to be happening all the time.
Witty banter. and a card full of things I love, Witty Banter might take the cake. For 1 power, when an enemy character within 3 is attacking an ally, he may immediately use that 1 power ability, Witty Banter, during the opponent's modify dice step to reroll 1 die in the attack roll.
It's the opposite of the Spider Foes affiliation.
Right. So basically, he has kind of another team ability, but it's on him, of course. He has to be within 3 of the enemy to make it happen, but he's messing with your opponent's dice attack rolls. And then finally, he does have a passive, which, seems okay. Mastered Spider Sense. This character may reroll any number if it's defense or dodge dice. Period.
That's insane.
I mean, it's good. I don't know that's that much better than regular Spider Sense, but sure.
I think we haven't seen a Spider Sense with 4/4/3 across the board like this one.
Yeah, but I mean, it is better. I don't know that. I think people are freaking out about this. I don't think it. I mean, it's nice. Defense dice are still defense dice.
In my
being able to reroll 2 more dice per roll if you blank out is I mean, it's not that much more.
I disagree. When I read this card at first, I was like, oh my god, he's such a great 5-point character. And then I got to that one, and I go, oh, he's Doctor Strange also. Because Doctor Strange forces you to roll all the dice, and you have to just keep the new roll. He picks and chooses his new dodge dice that he wants. He's not going to live quite as long as Strange because he won't heal himself constantly like he does. But the fact that you are getting to choose your dice is so big.
It's any rerolls, not all rerolls. I get that, but you're saying he is Doctor Strange, but he's not Doctor Strange? I'm confused.
No, I'm just saying. Okay, so let me paint a better analogy. When I read Doctor Strange, I saw all the stuff he did. I was like, wow, this guy's so cool. What a cool control character, buffy character, defensive character. And then I saw he may reroll all dice. I was like, holy crud, that's so strong. Like, he was really good. And now, wow, that seems like a 5.5-point character with that ability to just reroll all your dice. And I felt the same way with this one. I was like, okay, he's a really great 5-point beat-em-up Spidey. And then I read Mastered Spider Sense, and I went, whoa, he is 5.5 points. That is awesome. If this was a doubled, if all the points values were doubled in this game, I think he'd be an 11-point model. I really, really like him.
Okay, wow. I don't think he's that great. Yeah, the full rerolls on defense is nice, but we've seen effects like this, and they're not crazy broken. Because the average defense roll for him, he's gonna have probably 1 die out of 4 you don't want to reroll on average. So it is a little bit better than normal Spider Senses, but yeah, the big deal is really that he's 4 physical defense, not the rerolls.
Yeah.
If you could just play, Inspiring Monologue on Venom, he's not invulnerable. It's just good. Mm-hmm. And so obviously having it as a passive is great, but I don't know. I think people are freaking out a bit too much on it.
I don't think it's. To be fair, I do not think he is broken. I think it is a fair rule. I just really like it because it makes him feel like every bit a 5-point character, as opposed to your Black Bolts and that kind of people who are just like, how is this guy a 5-point character?
I don't want to break your excitement, but if you actually take a second and look at him, he doesn't actually deal that much damage. Now, I will say the thing I absolutely love about him is that everything on his card is I am Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Everything about him is I am Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. But when we really boil down to it, he has a 5-die attack. List the rest of his offense that you're going to use on a regular basis.
I think you're going to make it a 7 and a 5-die attack.
Sure, yeah. But there's other characters that do stuff like that too. It's good. It's obviously good. High mobility and acceptable damage, and then good survivability is fine. This guy is very good. He's definitely needs to be a 5-point model. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I'd be arguing that he's a 6, but he's certainly not Ebony Maw, so fair.
Jeremy, you had so much. You're ready to say so much, but you've been very quiet.
He's trying to go to sleep. We're interrupting his nap time.
No, I mean, we kind of talked about it the other day. I just listen to what you guys are saying and think, do I disagree or agree? I think the key for him is he's a long mover on a medium base that also has web swing. it makes him insane for objective play. Completely insane. To be able to go completely across the board and really not give a shit about it, because he can land pretty much next to anything and still be alive next turn. Angela was fast. This guy is super fast. This guy is way faster than Angela because of the ability to double move long on a medium base and then also place. That is really crazy. That's the back of your opponent's table edge in turn 1 if you want. Just cuz. It's within like a 2-inch marker.
Well, you can't do it turn 1, but yeah, I see what you mean.
So, anywho, that's what I see.
I think if you're double moving and placing, you fucked up real bad. But yeah, he is super quick.
I think
because all of Angela's maneuverability is stapled into her doing actions. His is not, which makes him faster.
Yeah,
like, he can just place 3 and not move. Like so many times with a range 3 attack and being able to place range 3, he's not going to take a move action. After turn 1, he probably won't take move actions for the majority of the game. Like the actual number of move actions he will take in a game is probably under 5. But Angela doesn't really have a great choice for that. If she doesn't have an enemy within 4, she's kind of screwed, so she has to move. So he's definitely more movement efficient by a lot, I think.
Yeah, that's what I like about him. I mean, that's what I want to see happen with him. He's super fighty, which is cool. I mean, he's great. He's definitely 5. He's worth 5. The only thing I see is he doesn't start out with a whole bunch of power. You're going to have to earn it or take some, punches.
I do like that he's not super power intensive either, though. Like, he's not going to be spending a crazy amount. But he is going to give the whole faction another thing to spend power on, and they are power hungry.
Does he actually move anyone? Does he move or push? I can't read this card. It's very blurry for me too.
He does not move or push anybody.
He does not move people.
Yeah.
He is the inverse Spider-Man.
So if
he is the
okay.
If we were to staple both Spider-Man together, they would do everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a weakness. I mean, for 5 points, an expectation for 5 points in my world is you need to be able to either you need to be able to take a point and or push a person off a point. He's
also a 5-point character that has a 5 dice attack. So I think that goes into it a little bit. Obviously, once per turn he can roll. So if you're talking about I'm doing 2 actions to roll 12 dice and I don't throw people, like that's like, yeah, you can cause a collision, but it's not on the original target.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough sell.
If you do his 5 cost attack, sometimes on his 5 cost attack, he'll throw a size 2 thing into that target. Like, okay.
I think he does above average damage, but I don't think he does a ton of damage. I don't think
he does above average damage. I think he does average damage.
I would say it's kind of like we were talking about earlier, the whole like you need the crits to become above average. So yeah, it's probably somewhere around average. The thing about it also is he has 2 parts of his kit that are buffing his team. I think the Web Wars affiliation ability is very strong, and I think Witty Banter is also potentially very strong. For 1 power, I think it's worth it.
Probably,
yeah.
Having your whole army.
No, I think he's solid. Mm-hmm. The reason that his damage is going to become better than average is because he's going to get to double attack so much more often than most characters.
Yeah.
Like, he could not even spend for web swing and move twice. It's possible. Mm-hmm. It's unlikely, but possible.
Mm-hmm. Web swing and the hook or whatever that Hawkeye had, like, all those are super good. Like, I don't know.
All the spend 2 place 3s are amazing.
Yeah, those are crazy.
It's place 2 is just so much less than 3.
It is.
I know it's obvious to people, but like it's basically double, right?
It is
like,
double.
It's basically twice.
Isn't it double?
It's so far. It's just under double, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't have 2 2s, but I'm pretty sure if you put them next to each other, it's like 1 3/4. It's not quite 2, but it's real fun.
I was gonna say, I think after playing against this ability on Miles all the time and just feeling, I always felt like, how is he doing so much damage and I can't catch him? And now they're just going to put this on this guy. I think it's, even though it's just incrementally, barely.
Miles' attack, it's 1 less die, but it throws on the wild. And so
That's true.
actually is possible for him to do statistically more damage on
Mm-hmm.
a lot of his attacks. Now, that being said, it's really only the one. And so if he's moving medium, placing 3, and kicking you, yeah, he's doing a lot on that one attack, but it's kind of the way it was designed, is that he can get in for the one. Peter is going to be repeatedly attacking twice a turn, pretty much the entire game. And so he will, like, do more damage than those people, but he's not going to be like, you know, Corvus Glaives is going to delete somebody. Like, that's not going to happen very often. That's going to be 100% dice, you know, variance and nothing about him. But that's not really what he does, though. Like, all of his fights are pretty drug out,
Mhm.
right? Like, he's not like the decapitation man.
Right.
I'm going to make a character for Marvel, decapitation man.
In our podcast Discord, I said as soon as I read this card, the first thing I thought is this wonderful single page. It's like 4 panels of him in the Civil War fight, the big fight at the end where everybody's in this big brawl in the middle of New York City, and he is, you know, there's all these A-listers duking it out, and here comes Spider-Man, and he in like 5 leaps, like kicks somebody, donkey punches another one, and like slams another, and then he's getting ready to jump directly into Mr. Fantastic, and he says, and Mr. Fantastic goes, amazing, and then he kicks him into the throat, and as he's kicking him in the throat, he goes, spectacular. And it's just like that panel is so perfect. And this card is exactly like that page from Civil War, where it's just like, I'm going to take down 4 A-listers in the span of a couple seconds and never stand still. I'm just going to be a blur doing it. It's so cool.
Mm. Like, people love all these like slow motion action movies where people are like ninja fighting in slow mo. It's like, that's basically just his powers.
Yeah.
That's basically what his powers are. Is he ninja fights in slow mo all the time.
Right. Oh. So
Yeah,
I think
the only things that the movies don't do is they don't show him like lifting and throwing cars. But he's actually strong too.
yeah.
Yeah.
The Superior Spider-Man series, that's where Doc Ock takes over his body for a while, and the first time he fights the Scorpion, he accidentally hits him in the jaw. Like, the only part of it is it's not armored.
Mhm.
And he's thinking, I'm going to hit you in the jaw to give you like some extra damage, because the only part that's not armored, because he's Doc Ock, right? I'm thinking like a scientist, and so he goes wham, and his jaw pops off, and he dies instantly. He takes his throat out, and the thing is, J. Jonah Jameson and a bunch of people are there, you know, and he's like, oh my god, they're all like freaking out because Peter Parker just murdered the Scorpion. He's dead, like that's it. He murdered him, and that's when he, like, Doc Ock realizes, like, holy crud. I cannot believe he has punched me when I was just some guy with metal arms, and he didn't murder me every time we fought. I can't believe he had that kind of self-control. Yeah.
So, Parker, I have a rules question for you. You might know this.
Oh, God.
So, the Amazing Spider-Man's alter ego is Peter Parker.
Yeah.
If I write clone in very similar font to the right of Peter Parker, can I play both at the same time?
I don't think so.
Why not? They're different people.
I think if it said Ben Reilly, I think you're allowed to do it. And I think Scarlet Spider might exist in this game eventually. I think Scarlet Spider is going to.
It definitely would be allowed if it said that, but it doesn't. So what if I write clone next to Peter Parker?
I think you should just paint your Spider-Man to have like a sweatshirt. He has like a tank. He has like a hoodie. Just put a hoodie on your Spider-Man and call him Scarlet Spider and call it good. That's what you should do.
Okay. Okay. Alrighty. Do we have anything else to say about Mr. Spidey?
I thought I was happy for
No?
Cable,
All right.
and now I'm really, really happy for this more stuff.
I was kind of disappointed with Cable, but honestly, my biggest letdown for Cable is I think his gun is too small. Like, it's really wide, but it's short. It's like the length of his forearm. Look at the gun; it's tiny.
It needs to be at least 7 or 8 inches longer.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the last bit of news we have is a panel to play.
I forgot about that.
Ophelia, the Viper, she is coming. Looks like she's going to be another fast-moving, stealthy type person, according to her panel to play. She's got 3 attacks, a pistol, a poison dagger, and Viper Strike. And as soon as I read poison, I was like, oh God, please, dear God, don't have poison all over her abilities. Those are so bad. Like everything she does poison, guys. Watch her poison you. Like, it's so stupid. Anyway, as it turns out, Viper Strike is the only one we know about. It's a Strength 6 attack that does slow and stun on a wild. So that's pretty cool. Slow and stun both at the same time on a wild. It's not nothing. So not poisonous, which is good. I just did not want to hear the word. I didn't want to see...
Not the poison effect.
Yeah.
It's a poison, but it does not apply the
I just didn't want to
effect.
see capital P for poison anywhere in this panel to play, and I didn't. She has her displacement ring, which is something cool she has. It's basically a magical thing that lets her teleport for 2 power. She can be placed anywhere within range 2. She does have stealth, so she can go up and do things, and then maybe place 2 and be out and be able to utilize stealth. She has Coiled Serpent, which is a ability, reactive superpower, allows her to roll 5 defense dice instead of 3. If she manages to block all the incoming damage, she immediately counter-strikes, inflicting 2 damage on her opponent. So
it's the typical martial prowess that all the other characters have.
But if you put her in, she'll likely be in Cabal, so she might actually have power to do it fairly often. But
So I want to say that I'm probably more excited for this character than any character that's been released so far.
oh, really?
No.
Oh,
No, I literally could not care.
oh,
less
okay,
about
okay.
this
I was
character.
like, what? She seems like the most generic add-on.
I literally do not care.
Yeah.
Like, if you told me, just kidding, that was a joke, we're not releasing her, I wouldn't even have a feeling about it. I would be so indifferent. I'm like, okay. Like, that would be my response.
Yeah,
I mean, they had to release somebody with Sin, and, I would have rather had an updated Crossbones, but whatever. Like, they've decided to go with Viper instead. I've never heard of this character. I've never seen this character outside the panel to play, and her kit does not seem interesting. I'm just not excited. I do not care.
Yeah, of the comic books, I've never heard of her, and I just, again, I'm with you. I don't care. It's she's not even one that's like
She's one of-
Crossbones or Zemo, where you're like, you know what? They were in this one movie one time. Let me go look it up, and you're like,
Yeah.
Cool. Who the fuck is this lady? I'm like,
She was in the Wolverine movie for like 4
you son of a
seasons,
bitch!
apparently.
Don't ever bring that up
What?
again.
What?
She was in
The Wolverine?
in the was it the Wolverine? That's the one before Logan, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she was in
not
the
good.
Wolverine.
So she's in the Asian one.
Yes.
It's
The one,
the worst
with the
one.
samurai.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's not.
It's actually-
it is far and away not.
It's actually
because
just fine.
Wolverine Origins is the
That
bad
one's
one.
terrible bad.
Yeah, all the other Wolverine movies are actually okay.
Yeah. Logan is good. I like Logan a lot, but I like
Logan's good. The third X-Men not so great, but it was okay.
But anyway, Viper is in there for like 4 seconds, not looking at all like Viper. Like you have to try really hard to recognize that it even is Viper, because she is not in it for very long and she doesn't do anything. She's not herself. Because in the comics, she's very much like a master assassin / she's very much kind of like a Nick Fury type character, where super agent, also strong leader type person. And she is the thing in the comic book. She's always like a throwaway villain. You're like, ooh, my main character needs to go get a super important doodad from this base who happens to be there defending it. Oh, Viper is. Now we get to fight Viper for an issue. Like, I don't think I've ever seen her be like the main antagonist of any storyline. Maybe somebody could tell me different, but she's not like Sin. Sin actually has been the main antagonist of a bunch of stuff. She's a primary like mover shaker in the Marvel universe, but Viper is always just kind of a throwaway villain who, villain of the day, shows up, gets punked, always punked like a bitch, and then leaves.
Alrighty. So I think that wraps up our panel to play for Viper.
Yeah, it's
There's just a lot of complaining.
yeah.
3.5
That was
thumbs
news.
down.
I do have a message. Yeah, 3.5 thumbs down. I give it 0.01 pizza rolls. I do have a message for Will Pagani and the development staff. Stop making characters I don't care about and release the goddamn Brotherhood already. I want my Brotherhood models. Alright, that was the end of my message. I need Juggernaut, I need Pyro, I need the twins, I need Brotherhood models. Just give me Brotherhood models. Alright, so next up we're going to talk a little bit about the results from the Tabletop Simulator Season 4 League. We touched on this a little bit last week, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more in depth about our impressions of what the numbers mean. We were hoping to get the numbers from the finals, but it looks like no one's data mined all that stuff yet. So, maybe next time. So have you guys looked at these at all? What have you looked at that hits you the most?
I saw one of the things that popped out to me is for anyone else who goes and looks at some of this data, it is interesting and useful, but there is a heavy skew to it. For example, one of the characters that's super popular apparently in this league that they did is Toad. He appeared in 56 different rosters. A full third of the of this league had a Toad in it, and when I heard that, I went, but why though? Because it can't be because Toad.
No, I actually think it is because the two things. First off, of the 2-point models, I think Toad is one of the best combat pieces.
Okay.
Right? For 2 points, you buy a decent stat line. You really do. Secondly, his interacting with objectives at range 2 is I think really popular because I feel like the Tabletop Simulator community puts a lot of focus around manipulating scenarios, especially in the early turns, right? They look at it very much as like a board game. It's like, all right, my objective is to get this. I'm going to do this absolutely as quickly as possible. And I don't know if that's just because of Tabletop Simulator or that's not how we focus on the game. We focus a lot more around the middle to late game. But also, if you go to here, conveniently also, Advanced R&D, 41% of players had Advanced R&D in their roster. Like, that's unheard of around here. And so
right.
I think that combined with Toad, we can start seeing they're going for a lot of early, big impacting plays. And also Hired Muscle, next highest taken, 46%. Like, those are two really telling things about this league, I think. Over 40% on both of those cards.
Mm-hmm.
And that was actually one of the next things I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
So I can understand Toad. It seems a little extreme still, but yeah, Toad being in like the top 10 for most taken characters really surprised me.
So I'm just looking at tactics cards. That really is interesting to me of how, again, Advanced R&D is in that top 10 bracket. Disarm, some of those type things. I think that this season, all you got is a hot take. It's one of those cards that somehow like we didn't really get to it as fast as others, but it is completely bananas to be able to activate a character, then activate them again, then bring them back with full health because that doesn't actually damage you. Being able to have a MODOK or a Magneto activate twice on you, and even a third time if you're in Cabal, God help you, is just crazy. It's just crazy. And I hadn't seen it or heard about it until this season.
We were talking about it in at the shop, and we were talking about like this situation where you had enough power, theoretically, which in Cabal you can get a lot of power. And so if you have MODOK and Red Skull close enough together, you can activate and MODOK goes, and then you play all you've got. He immediately gets dazed, and then because you gain the activated token before your turn actually ends, you could then play Cosmic Invigoration before he actually gets dazed. And so you remove the activated token, and then he gains a dazed token. And then later on, at any point, you could get someone to play Field Dressing and then activate MODOK again. And so that way, even if they got rid of Red Skull, you'd still be in a position where that could happen. And since MODOK doesn't actually take damage from playing all you've got, he just gains the Daze token, not the damage to fill him up. You don't have to worry about, I have to immediately activate him. You can just, like, double move somebody, play field dressing, your turn, and you're like, and then MODOK's just standing there with, like, 1 or 2 damage on him, like, what's up?
Oh.
Like, I'm still MODOK.
Oh, by the way, you do heal 1, so if he took 1 damage, he would
right,
be
exactly. It's like I activate MODOK first, he's taken 0 damage. I play all you got, he activates again. Then I play Cosmic Invigoration after he's done his second action, but before his turn ends. And then he takes, let's say, 3 damage, and then later on you play field dressing. Then he has 2 damage on him, and he's about to activate for the 3rd time in 1 turn.
Yes, that's what I saw. The just the whole idea with that. All you got's a big deal, and until the last few months, I hadn't noticed it.
I mean, I know why we haven't, because we've gotten into this manner of, like, obviously when you've got a group of less than 10 people playing on a regular basis, you're going to start playing towards your opponents a little bit. So it's like, if you're running into an issue where it's like, well, I can't beat so-and-so, I'm trying to beat so-and-so's, like, X-Men roster or something, you're going to start putting stuff in that helps you along that path. And so you basically can get into this arms race type situation where it's like, oh, well, so-and-so is playing, Asgard, which is kind of like a bruiser list. And so then you show up with, like, Avengers, where it's like more survivability, more long game stuff. And then they show up and they're playing like X-Men with, like, Wolverine and Sabretooth and Venom or something, like a bunch of survivable people. Then you show back up with Black Order, and it's like we just keep trying to one up each other for fighting in the middle, right? And so there's been metas that are defined like this in, like, large games too, like Magic. Magic did this at one point where it's like probably about 10 years ago. Magic was basically just control wins everything. So you have, like, Mahamoti Jin, which is like a big flyer, and you just play these massive control decks where it's like you counter everything they play until turn like 8 or 10, play your one guy, and then when you have enough mana still open to counterspell whatever they do to them, and then you start hitting them in the face with your one guy, and you just keep the board clear so they can't ever do anything about it. And you just slowly kill them with one creature while you just keep the game on lockdown. And then one guy shows up with a goblin deck, and he's like, Raging Goblin. He's like, counterspell. And you're like, okay. Like, Raging Goblin ×2. And you're like, and they attacks you, and you're like, okay. And you're trying to deal with, like, all these tiny little threats, and you don't have enough resources to do it. So you just go wide and go around, which was kind of been what we've been doing to Black Order. It's like, well, I showed up with Black Order. It's like, cool, I run past you and get the points, and then you can kill whatever you want. And it's like, well, now it's just a race. It's like, can you kill me before I get to 16? And so, like, that's basically, I think, what happened to us specifically when All You've Got came out. And it was, everyone's just playing these super fighty lists. And so, like, All You've Got, because we were playing it that, you take the damage, which at the time wasn't a big deal because we weren't playing field dressing very often at the time. It's like, you play All You've Got, and then, okay, now my character flips over. I just did all this damage to myself, so it doesn't actually help me, which is why we weren't valuing it very highly. I thought it was an interesting card. But yeah, I think it has a lot of value. I don't know that it's as valuable as it is in here, though. That seems really high. 30% of people basically had this card in their roster. That seems high.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think of the other cards you don't put in your roster if you put that.
Right.
It's tough. They're very, very tight spots.
And part of it is, I wonder, like, are the people that drive this community, like, I've heard that a handful of people keep placing pretty highly in the league. And so I'm wondering if maybe people are just emulating them. It's like they see that, like, well, 8 of the top 10 people in the league are playing these 3 cards. Maybe I should play them more. And so then it ends up making it into their rosters and so. And it just proliferates further down the ranks. But I think Hired Muscle is super valuable. I understand it being where it is because it does impact the game pretty heavily. Disarm, though. Disarm surprised me, too. I like Disarm, but I just don't see people play it.
I think
Disarm is actually...
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, I think Disarm is actually... it's your arms race argument. I think Disarm is for All You've Got.
Jeremy, you're lagging a bit. What'd you say?
I put it in my list, and I had a perfect moment to play it, and I had too many hammers, and I couldn't afford it. And then I got blown up.
Yep.
Yep.
But it's like, but against, I think disarm is exactly for all you've got. That kind of scenario where your opponent has a 6-pointer that they're going to all you've got and go really hard, and you're like, disarm. So this turn you can go ahead and do your whole all you've got thing. You can blow your wad on it, but you're not going to be able to roll enough dice to make a big difference this turn. I think it's exactly a meta choice against things like all you've got. Going all in on big characters to do a whole bunch of things.
I could kind of see that. Mainly, I think people are recognizing that the super teams are a problem, and so I think disarm is kind of the natural answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand that. I don't know that it's a direct counter to all you've got, because they could either just play all you've got on somebody else, or just wait a turn. Like, if you burned a tactics card, it's like you still have to deal with that character. And you had to have priority for that to matter. I don't know. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. But I understand the concept of where your opinion came from, where it's like, obviously if you're playing all you've got, you're using it on someone that's really valuable, and like getting a double activation with them is really, really powerful. And so anytime you have a character like that, disarm is effective against them. So I get that. So it doesn't have to directly counter all you've got, but it can push it to later in the game. The problem I had was field dressing wasn't number one. I think that's a mistake. Not only is it not number one, it is dramatically not number one. Like, Medpack, if any card was going to make it, it wasn't field dressing. I think Medpack made the most sense. Medpack is at 77%. I guess I realize we've been making this mistake. We've been talking about these cards like people can see what we're looking at. We should mention the percentages from now on, if we haven't been.
Yeah.
Because people at home probably aren't looking at this document. So Medpack came in number one at 77%. That's a huge percentage, but I totally believe that, and I think that makes sense. But I think field dressing, in fact, I actually think Medpack should be like 95%. Like, I think very few lists shouldn't run it. And pretty much the only lists that shouldn't run it are the lists that are playing like all you've got Doomed Prophecy combos, like stuff like that are the only lists that shouldn't. But yeah, field dressing only being 47% really surprises me. Less than half the people had field dressing on their roster. That blows me away.
Yeah.
I could probably count the number of games I've seen field dressing not get played since it came out on like one hand.
But is that just something we've all agreed that just it's so strong? Maybe.
Well,
but
if your opponent has field dressing and you don't, then yeah, I feel like they have a huge advantage because it impacts the game so much.
Yeah.
No, it does. I've been playing without it for about a month, and I definitely pay for it. I pay for it every single game. Like, I just want those tactic spots and trying something different. But I got to tell you, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But of the 2 cards that I needed, and I think it's 3, maybe even 4. So it's a bitch. I would hate to, I would love to not take that garbage. The ones that are just so good, you have to take them. But I think Hired Muscle, that one, are kind of you have to, or you're going to get screwed.
Yeah. I hear a lot of people say they take Hired Muscle to counter other people's Hired Muscle, but it really doesn't. Whoever has priority gets it. Like, you're still screwed. You might say that you can try and affect the other side of the board with it, but I don't know that that's actually possible in a lot of scenarios. Because whoever has priority still has a huge advantage in that situation. A similar thing came up in Monster Apocalypse, if people aren't familiar. It's a miniatures game on a grid, and you take turns deploying the terrain, which are these little buildings, and each one of them has a special ability. But one of the buildings that was printed that honestly kind of ended the game for us. Like, it was kind of like an arms race. A lot of the buildings were super important to certain factions, and there was a building came out, the Empire State Building, and if you controlled the Empire State Building, you could spend 1 power to switch 2 buildings. And so you would replace one of your garbage buildings and take their best building, even if you didn't need it, because it would deny it to them. And so the answer was, just take your own Empire State Building and then just take it back. And then guess what happens? They take your Empire State Building as the first steal. And so it just becomes, now it's an embarrassment of riches because they have 2 of them. And it's just like, oh my God! Like, it was just like what you would think would be the natural answer was the opposite. It just made it worse. And so whoever got to go first just had a massive advantage from then on. And there was already a pretty noticeable advantage, but it just felt like once that building came out, it was just so punishing to go second. So punishing. It'd be like if Hired Muscle wasn't once per turn. And the objectives stayed on the ground. Like if you're playing Mayor Fist Downtown, or Mayor Fist Intimidates Witnesses, and you could just play Inspired or Hired Muscle for 1 power every turn. That's how dumb it was. And so it's just like, I just take all the cool stuff and you're just screwed. So basically, unless you had it too, you were screwed. But they just take yours first, and it was dumb. So yeah, Hired Muscle, 46% of rosters. I think that's actually about right. I think about half the list should probably have Hired Muscle. Field dressing at 47%, though. Really surprised me. Brace at 51, honorable mention. I don't see Brace very much anymore. Jeremy's the only one who plays Brace. And that's only because he's forcing himself to not play field dressing.
Solid point.
Jeremy, how many of those games would you, if you could go back, would you choose to take field dressing instead?
Probably none, because I've learned
probably, but like
I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot, right? Isn't that the journey?
Well, I'm not saying lose the experience, but like if you were trying to win, how many of those games was field dressing a better choice?
All of them.
Like 9 in 10, maybe. Like
I don't know. Probably all. Like it's a very good card. It's much better to just take the damage and lay there, dead or dazed, and then the entire game goes by, and they go, "Oh, wait a second, this guy's back up." That's pretty damn good.
Yeah. The amount of games I've seen field dressing just turn on its head, it's just like, well, things just lined up to where it's like, well, field dressing now controls the game. I feel like Boromir here arguing with people. I'm like, guys, we're giving up our greatest weapon against dice randomization, and you guys are just gonna throw it into a mountain? Give me this and I'll win games. Like that's how I feel. It's like everyone that's like, field dressing isn't necessary or it's not valuable. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think it's because, and maybe if you built a list that was only 3-point models, field dressing may not feel that impactful because you play somebody, you pick someone back up, and then they do 2 damage, and that was what you got out of it. But when you're playing a 6-point model or the right 5-point model, MODOK, if you're playing the model that can make a huge difference in the game by activating twice, then it does. It totally wins the game by itself, unlike any other tactics card. But I think there's a place in this universe where you could play a game where you would never see that card do anything for you. Like you could play this game for a long time, and if you only played it with a certain kind of list or a certain kind of strategy, you may not feel like it's worth it. But
the fact that Hulk is literally unplayable without field dressing also is just like insult to injury. Like that model is so bad without field dressing. I was thinking, what if you just went in with all you've got with Hulk on purpose to make Hulk invulnerable for the turn? You were just like all in on the I'm gonna play field dressing at some point.
Oh my god.
And then next turn he just starts with like 3 damage on him and just goes again. Like I was like, is that doable? Could that work?
And then they keep pushing their models away.
But yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'd have to have like Black Widow in the back with like 4 power on her ready to go. Like double move, play field dressing kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Anything else pop out?
I mean, the problem is a lot of these are super skewable. Like, if people do bother to look up this list, and I'll probably post a link to it in the podcast details. But if you do go on here, don't just assume that these are good cards or good characters. Like, this stuff taking out of context can be misleading. Like, perfect example, No Matter the Cost. I think No Matter the Cost is being played in specific rosters, and those rosters where characters have like really high power costs. For example, like I can't think of anyone that specifically would run it, but if you have like maybe I'm trying to think of a good example.
Ronan, maybe?
Sort of. Venom is a really good choice, I think. If you're gonna do We Are Venom and you just want to do it, Ronan's not bad. It's just there's not a lot of characters that want to take damage. Like Carnage, honestly, would be a perfect example, but he's not out yet.
Miles is really
I
probably.
wanted to say Thor.
Miles is what they're doing. Most
Yeah,
of them are being
Miles.
competitive with it.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, so they can knock it out of your hand.
I could
take
definitely
it.
see Miles. Because then you only have to spend probably the 2 to place and then 1 to pick it up, and you can just get it and get out.
Mhm.
That helps a lot.
Yeah, it's
it's
a
a lot easier to
tactic.
get 3 on him than 6.
Mhm.
But also like the affiliations here. Was it Asgard's like 23% of the total players were playing Asgard, which is just crazy to me. 48% of all rosters were playing 1 affiliation, 46% were playing 2, and 5% were playing 3. 1% was playing 4. Who had 4 affiliations in their roster? I wonder if that was like by accident.
That'd be
Oh, it says here he played A-Force, Avengers, Wakanda, and Web Warriors. I wonder if he just had like Miles and he had like enough like rogue agents to technically count that he could make a roster, or if he was actually like, yeah, this is a 4 roster affiliation.
Well, what you're forgetting too is you don't need the leaders. You don't need leadership.
The leaders.
So it could just be a smattering that built that many. Like, it could be combo guys.
I feel like they should have looked at that like, yeah, he's just playing stuff. Like, it doesn't matter. Like
Face roll.
Like, if he's not playing She-Hulk, he's not playing A-Force. If he's not playing Cap, he's not
Yeah.
playing Avengers. And so I wonder, like, I could totally see taking Black Panther for Avengers, and then you also had Shuri in your list. So it's like, well, technically he had Bucky, so he could play Wakanda. And you're like, no, not really though. Like, that's not really what happened.
Yeah, I was gonna say the quad affiliation is not too hard to do in A-Force. Like you have 3.
Yeah,
Wakandan,
everyone's already.
Yeah, you have 3
mercenary.
Wakandan models. You have 3 Avengers models. You have easily.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was just more of just like technically speaking, this is what the numbers mean, but like not really.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never say somebody doesn't know what they're doing without context, but if he actually built a quad affiliation and had like 1 Tactus card from each affiliation, like I think he was having fun more than trying to be competitive, which is totally fine, but I just refuse to believe a 4 affiliation roster is competitive.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of stuff here. The problem is once you get below like 20%, it's just random stuff. And a lot of them are affiliation only cards, where it's like, yeah, sure, like whatever way. If you have 23% being Asgard, then yeah, you're gonna have a lot of like Rainbow Bridges and a lot of Odin's Blessings. Like that just makes sense. I wonder if Disarm, it was kind of a factor of that stall Asgard list you were talking about, where you just kind of stand on the points and don't attack people and just heal. Because Disarm's a good way to do that too. If they have like an alpha model, like a MODOK or a Magneto, and you just throw Disarm on them and you're like, shut up, go away. It's like, I'll just live through it.
Yeah, I think it's all those, any of those models that are above or 5 points and beyond, a Disarm really guts them. And I know that there's a bunch of those, especially A-Force is super popular. Throwing that on She-Hulk would be a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it slows her down a lot. Yeah, I think the further we get away from the core set, we're going to start seeing the core set cards becoming more and more valuable in rosters, like Disarm and Trip Up and stuff like that. Because those are the kinds of cards that we're probably not going to see reprinted very often. Kind of like the old cards in Magic. It's like, well, this was kind of a unique effect. We just didn't respect it at the time. And so where, Patch Up gets replaced by Medpack pretty much instantly, you might never see Disarm get replaced because it might be the only effect that's strong that ever comes out. Like Drop Off is another good example. Like it even got banned because we realize now that the action economy on this card is just too much. We need to bring it back down.
I remember you used to have to buy the core set of X-Wing because R2-D2 was in it. And,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, R2-D2 is just the best version of this card in the game. They're never going to make this again.
And for a time, it was like Luke and Wedge as well, but they fell off eventually when Poe came out.
Yeah. But it's the same kind of thing. It's not that everybody will always play Spider-Man because he was in the core set, but they will need that kind of effect and
Yeah.
might be the only.
Cosmic invigoration.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll see another one of those anytime soon.
No.
Alrighty, well, that's probably enough here. Is there anything in characters you guys wanted to talk about? Any, like, abnormally high characters that you disagree with? I know we talked about Toad. Toad had 33% of rosters. That is crazy.
I actually had one that was really. I had two that I saw were really low that surprised me, but maybe I think it might be a factor of just this idea that they're not adding a whole lot to the objective game. But Ghost Rider and Ultron are both regen characters, and Ghost Rider I think is a super strong character. He only showed up 6 times. With
4% with Ghost Rider.
Yeah, and Ultron was the last character on the list. I could see Ultron because he's not super flashy. He's just kind of a really, a really solid turret. But I actually expected Ghost Rider to be up there more often because,
say Parker,
of his ability to just come back so efficiently.
Parker, Ultron is basically considered the worst character in the game.
Okay, did we rate Ultron?
No. I'm saying that people think that.
Oh.
Like, now, we don't think he's particularly good, but, like, I don't, like, Ebony Maw is way worse than Ultron.
He was taken one more time.
I know, right? That's the problem.
Oh, God.
I'm okay with actually everything on the. I'm okay with everything in the bottom 10. Doc Ock was on the bottom 10. Winter Soldier, Iron Man, Black Widow, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. All those make sense. Okay, Ultron I believe could be down there too, but Ghost Rider was actually the one that stuck out to me. Not just because I'm a personal Ghost Rider fan, because I played him a bunch, and the guy does so much. Maybe there just wasn't a place for a 5-pointer, kind of a generic, more plug and play 5-pointer in anybody's lists. You just had to make a choice, and so he got dropped a lot. Man, every time I put him on the board, I feel like I'm starting to win when I put him on the board.
Talk about Ghost Rider?
Yeah.
So this is what I wanted to talk about for Ghost Rider. Here's the affiliations in order of relevance. Asgard 23%, Brotherhood 18, Defenders 16, Criminal Syndicate 15. So like Wakanda 14, Web Warriors 14. The only one in the top bracket that even would think about taking him as Defenders.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, I don't think he actually gets played in Defenders that much. I think he's much better out of Defenders.
Yeah.
And so those are when you take it through the lens of, okay, well, they're all playing affiliations with expensive leaders or like known quantities what they want to play with. Like Wakanda is one of the strongest factions because all their people work so well together. So you're not going to slide Ghost Rider in there. Same thing with Web Warriors. He doesn't do what the Web Warriors want. And then Criminals, same thing. And then Brotherhood, you already have all the characters you need, and all your characters are already expensive. And then Asgard, same thing. All your characters are so expensive, there's no way you're squeezing Ghost Rider in there. So I think that's a product of more of what people were already playing, and so he didn't get thrown into very many rosters, because he didn't synergize with what people were playing. But if we move towards the bottom, we have Black Order, Cabal, Guardians. I think he fits really well in Guardians. Avengers, he fits well in Avengers. Maybe even A-Force, you could probably argue. Actually, I think he might be good in A-Force now that I say that.
Mm.
Also in Uncanny X-Men. So I think it's just that the factions that he's good in were unpopular more than he wasn't good. But also, I don't know how popular he is on the national scene. I'm surprised Beast was so low. I think Beast is a great 3-point drop-in. He only got 15%. Kingpin only got 15%. Jeremy, your boy.
He's
your
dead to
slow
me.
Boy. Dead
He's
to you?
dead to me.
Okay. Let's see. Venom 14%. That seems low.
I was surprised that MODOK was 29%. I felt like he's going to be more ubiquitous across the game. He's actually, I think, a 5-pointer you make space for in your roster because he does, he does well in.
You liked the power,
where
didn't
does he
you?
not do
You
well?
liked it.
Yeah. Well, I did enjoy playing with it. It was strong, but also I played against him a bunch. Like every time I see him on the table, I go, well, he's going to take way more damage than he should and do way more damage to me and affect my whole game. We've talked about him before. He's the Millennium Falcon Han Solo of this game. Like he's always going to be like you do pay a little bit more for him than any other character. So if you want efficient, maybe he's not. But if you want just for his pounds, like pound for pound, point for point, gosh, what other character in the game? The fact that he only showed up 29% of the time was a little surprising to me. A little surprising.
Yeah, MODOK's crazy. So how about this? I have a triad of characters here that I don't understand the concept here. All right. So if I told you Red Skull, all right, these two characters are in the same class as Red Skull. Tell me if I'm wrong. Hulk. How am I doing? Hulk, Red Skull, equal power level there?
No.
Yeah, okay. And then Black Dwarf. So we have Hulk, Black Dwarf, and Red Skull, all at basically dead even 8%.
It's
Explain.
weird. That
Is it because
weird.
where's okay? That blows me away. I was a little bit like, okay, maybe the people have some sort of logic for Ghost Rider, but why the hell do you put Hulk in your list over Ghost Rider?
Yeah. The East Coast has 12% of people have Hulk in their roster. It's completely dumbfounding me. I don't get it at all. I think Hulk is the worst model in the game.
Ebony, you think he's worse than Ebony Maw?
He's ridiculous.
He's not a model in this game.
He's 6 points.
Ebony
That's
Maw
a
is
tough
like in the
sell.
parking lot outside.
Oh,
Yeah. But I can forgive someone playing Ebony Maw because I can understand their thought process. I'm playing Black Order. I'm going to take the 5 Black Order guys and 5 stones. I understand Ebony Maw making rosters. How does Hulk make your roster? Because if you're playing Avengers, you have way more good choices. If you're playing Defenders, you have way more good choices. There's no justification for putting Hulk in a roster. Because if you're doing Black Order, you can at least say you're being a faction purist. Hulk is horribly, power crept, you could argue, but I would just say he didn't age well. It was an experiment, and they learned from it, and that's why we have She-Hulk. I would even say She-Hulk isn't that super impressive. She is a, landslide better than Hulk is. Yeah, so it just doesn't make sense. I think Black Dwarf is better than Hulk by a lot. If you want a Hulk-type character, put Black Dwarf in. He's fine.
Yeah.
He'll just be a big beater. He'll absorb a ton of damage, and he'll get attention when he starts chopping people up. You're like, oh god, what is this guy doing? You're like, here's 8 dice, just eat it. 8 dice stagger, your turn.
And
what?
He throws garbage trucks at people because he picks up size 4s.
Yeah, he's so perfect. You're talking about Black Panther is good at holding a flanking objective point. Black Dwarf is also amazing at holding a flanking objective point. Very few models can get him out of there, and even if they do, you just activate blast and trundle back in. You're like, I'm Black Dwarf. Good luck ever killing me. And you're like, okay. Scrolling up, Punisher 5% of rosters. What the hell? What are people doing?
He's your boy.
That guy is way too good. 3% on the East Coast? What? How many people did you say this was? It was 100 and something?
160 something. Yeah, it's really a lot.
160 people? That's 7 people took Punisher. Oh my god. That doesn't even make sense.
8. It was 8 people, but yeah.
8 people? Where are you seeing those numbers?
I'm looking at...
Is it on the other document?
Yeah, the other doc, yeah.
Oh, okay. So I'm just looking at the percentage one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, Ebony Maw is... it's so low that we're in the level of variance here. It's basically plus minus 5% for the random people that's I want to play this game. So they just join the league because they didn't have anybody to play with. Because think about it like this. If you're new to the game and you join TTS and you don't have any online friends to play with, how do you play games, right?
Yeah.
You probably just join the league to get games in. So there might be a lot of new players in here. And so obviously you can forgive the up and down 5-10%, I would say. Winter Soldier makes sense because he's not very popular. Iron Man, Ultron, Ebony Maw. All these characters, Doc Ock. Groot at 6% is kind of odd. Gamora was also 6%. Bullseye 6%. Wasp 7%. A lot of these make sense. Ronin 7% makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but how is Hela noticeably more played than Punisher? It just will never make... I guess there's a bunch of Asgard players, but she's trash. She's so bad. Especially in Asgard. What does she do in Asgard? And you can't say they didn't own Enchantress because it's a TTS league. I don't know. Just stuff like that confuses me. And then towards the top, Mystique. I think Mystique is terrible. Now, I can understand if there's a bunch of people playing Brotherhood, well, then you're taking Mystique because that's how you play Brotherhood right now, but...
People really dig her, man. That deception's huge.
I don't... Sure, but I guess... Cabal only got 8% play. That's crazy. Yeah, like it kind of makes sense towards the bottom here. If we look at affiliations, 1% played unaffiliated, 4% played Spider Foes, makes sense. 4% played Black Order, maybe a little low. 8% played Cabal. What the hell are you guys doing? Like, what the hell? How is only 8% playing Cabal?
Yeah.
8% Guardians, that seems a little low, but I guess there's a lot of affiliations now.
Yeah.
9% Avengers, 13% X-Men, 13% A-Force, 14% Web Warriors, 14% Wakanda, that seems low. Criminal Syndicate 15, Defenders 16, that seems high. And then Brotherhood is 18%, also seems high. Just play Cabal, guys. Every good character in that faction's also in Cabal. And then Asgard, 23%. I mean, maybe they wanted the affiliation cards, like they just wanted the repeated cover, but I don't think it's worth playing Brotherhood over Cabal. You get way more power off the leadership as well. All right, well, I've ranted on this enough. Parker, why don't you take us into our comic corner, and we'll get out of here.
Okay. So comic corner today is in honor of our new boy, Amazing Spider-Man. I want to talk about a Spider-Man event. It was actually very interesting. It was a cross-title Spider-Man event, so it didn't happen in any other titles, but the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Marvel Knights Spider-Man, and the Amazing Spider-Man titles back in 2006 basically took turns, and the writers for each one of those series basically did Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 of a Spider-Man event called The Other. Basically, they wanted to kind of dive into Spider-Man's powers and what they really mean. You know, bitten by a radioactive spider, what does that do? Like, what does it actually do to you? And so they introduce a brand new, super terrifying bad guy called Morlun, who's basically think of him kind of like a soul vampire. He consumes particularly powerful creatures across the multiverse. He's a multiverse wanderer, and it's been a long part of the Spider-Man mythos that Spider-Man has an attachment to like spiders as like a totem, like Anansi, like the Spider God, and people like that. There's been a couple Spider-Man characters like Madam Web that have told him about his connection to this like spider totem. It's a recurring thing in the multiverse that there's always a Spider-Man-ish thing, like a Spider-Man of some, or Spider-Woman, Spider-Girl, a Spider-Robot or something. And so Morlun's goal is to go around consuming that because it turns out the Spider-Man in different multiverses have the greatest vitality. They're always these incredible characters and this incredible vivacious personality, and so he's gotten a taste for them. And so he comes to the primary Marvel Universe's Spider-Man, and he beats the crap out of him and is saved just narrowly. And so Spider-Man is dying in a hospital bed, and Morlun comes to consume him. And basically, at that moment, we get to see, for the very first time, Spider-Man becomes less a man and more a spider, and he just kind of goes apeshit. And the rest of the other is about that moment where he's confronted with actual death, and Morlun is attacking his spirit. It's like this other, right? The presence of Spider-Man. You know, the main question of the other is, what is Spider-Man? Is he a man with the powers of a spider, or a spider with the powers of a man? And what does it mean to make this choice? And so it's one of the other cool things about this is they wanted to kind of evolve his power set, because his power set's always been like, you know, spider sense and super strength and reflexes. He's extra flexible. He can put his knees above his head kind of thing. But they looked into some of the things that spiders actually do. Like, what is a spider sense? Well, it's actually, you know, it feels like ESP, but it's really just his brain's ability to process a ridiculous amount of sensory information about his environment. So what does that mean he could do if he was really able to supercharge something like a spider sense? What could he feel with his fingers and his hair follicles and like every single pressure point on his skin. How could he actually detect the environment around him? Spiders have ridiculous reflexes. If you make a spider like as large as a person, they would be moving at hundreds and hundreds of miles an hour with their reflexes. They're insane. So can Spider-Man like catch a bullet? Like his thoughts and his body should be able to move faster than bullets move through the air. So can he just do that? They start asking those kind of questions as he develops his powers and becomes closer to this, a spider who wants to be a man kind of character. So if you like Spider-Man, the mythos, and you'd like to see him kind of supercharged, you'd like to see him like a group of writers really explore what it means for his power set, and also the kind of the spirituality, the totem part of Spider-Man, which has been a sub story, since like 1991 when they started introducing some of this totem stuff. The Other is a really cool culmination for that. Also, the comics directly preceding that in all three titles are also fun, because after he kind of gets this rebirth as the Other, the new powers that he explores and the interactions with other people are a lot of fun. So after any comics you see about Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Marvel Knights Spider-Man, or Amazing Spider-Man, any of the issues after his other episodes are really fun. One of my favorite ones is actually because he's at that point in the storyline, he's living in Avengers Mansion, like he's a full Avenger, and he's in a training session with Captain America, and Captain America is all about like control, right, and tactics and making the correct strategic decision. And so he's talking to Peter about like, when you fight, do you ever think about throwing a punch? He's like, well, yeah, I think about it. Like, I want to punch the guy, so I punch him. He goes, yeah, but do you ever like decide what you're going to do strategically? And he's like, he thinks about it for a second. He goes, like, no. He's like, yeah. Like, Captain's like, when I watch you fight, I can tell you just kind of give yourself over to instinct and experience, and you more or less just kind of go on autopilot. And that's one of the reasons why you're able to do the witty repartee. You're just your body is just feeling the environment, and your experience with fighting is just so intense that you can just fight people without really thinking about it. What do you think would happen if you really thought about it? If you gave away, like, if you suck your forebrain at this problem and like tried to fight people with like every part of your mental faculty. And Peter thinks about that, and then he applies it in one of these comics. I think it's an Amazing Spider-Man issue. Super cool concept. So there's it's a redefinition of him and his power set, and it makes perfect sense with the new Amazing Spider-Man character coming out. This like Spider-Man who, fully unlocks his potential with his power set and his ability to fight with his forebrain and think about what he's going to do, rather than just kind of react as a teenager with biceps. So really cool. The Other, you check it out in a graphic novel form, or you can collect the individual issues if you find out what it is. You just type in Spider-Man The Other, it'll tell you which issues of those three comics it was.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for the comic corner. I actually have, for the first time, Brandon's novel corner. Because you talked about that storyline with Spider-Man, I was going to suggest, if anyone hasn't read it, there is a novel out written by Jim Butcher called Spider-Man: The Darkest Hours. That is it follows that same storyline in a different time, or a different point in time, but it happens after the comic series does. But it's also available on Audible. I love Jim Butcher as an author, so I picked it up, and it was a pretty good little book. You learned a lot about Spider-Man and his relationship with a lot of the other characters in his life. Alrighty, well, that's going to do it for us today. This has been Brandon.
And Parker.
And Jermiger.
And this has been The Gang Reads the News.
News.
Get it? Because
News.
there's a lot of
There's
news.
a lot of news. Ugh.
So much news.
I was watching what is the name of that show? The British talk show where they have like movie stars and stuff on. Graham Norton, the Graham Norton show. And they had Tom Cruise on there, and he's like, and they're talking about all the stunts he does, because he does mostly his own stunts. And there was one where he's like supposed to run away from this giant like liquid tank that explodes. So there's this giant wall of water and glass following
Yeah,
him.
Mission Impossible.
And he has to
Mission
outrun
Impossible
it.
1.
Yeah, Mission Impossible, yeah. And so it's this big thing, and he's like, he's psyched himself up, he's ready to go, and he looks at the guy who's going to set the bomb off, the explosion that's going to break the glass. And he looks at Tom Cruise, he's like, you ready? He's like, yeah. He's like, all right, we're going to go on 3. Ready? And he's like, yeah. 3, 2, and he's like, whoa, stop. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you started with 3. He's like, yeah, we're going to go on 3. He's like, you just said 3 first. He's like, I don't understand your point. Like, the guy was like confused as to why he had a problem with it. He's like, are you going to go on 1? Are you going to go after 1? Are we going on 3? What is happening? He's like, just go on 3. And he's like, I can't deal with this right now. It's like, because he's super stressed out because he's putting himself in like danger to do this stunt. And the guy doesn't even know when they're going to go. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? Get this guy out of here. How is this the guy you picked to set off the explosion? This guy doesn't look like he can show up to work on time. I'll have time an explosion to where no one dies. So every time we do our claps, I picture Parker as the guy's like, yeah, just go on 3. It's like, we're going on 5. It's like, just on 3. It's like, that's not a thing. Oh boy. We had some pretty good preamble there that wasn't recorded.
Don't worry.
It's true.
It's going to get better.
I've never felt more justified to hate DC than when I looked up that they spent more money on Justice League than Marvel did on Endgame.
Oh, God.
It's like, that's the products they produced. Like, you are such a failure at life.
It did seem expensive. Like, it felt like 4 hours of very expensive movie. Like,
it's 4 hours of like every part of the screen is CGI.
Yeah, like
something
was touched.
Real.
Yeah, like something is touched, tinted, colored, not real. Like it felt. I mean, very
just
expensive.
imagine. I'm curious how much of that money they spent making it look that dark. Like we have to shadow everything, guys. Like, everything's got to be dramatic shadows. You're like how much did they spend just on the shadows? I want to know.
Computers.
It's probably like $3 million.
Surely the entire film is just like the actor's experience is just a green screen. Like, I don't think they ever actually anywhere, right?
They were
probably not. I don't. I would be surprised if they actually built any sets. As we're like, even the final fight in Endgame, where basically everything is CGI, they're still on an actual large soundstage with like physical terrain around them. But yeah, like I don't understand how it's basically the prequels, right? It's the prequels with a tint filter on. It's like, come on. Oh, you guys never saw Manos in the Hands of Fate, did you?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. It's one of the worst movies ever made. Like, people say The Room is, but The Room's actually watchable. Manos in the Hands of Fate is, like, just complete garbage. It was an MST3K movie as well. Basically, it was, like, set in the 50s where these this couple driving through the desert gets lost, and they pull up to this, I'm going to use air quotes, hotel, where it's supposed to be a hotel, but it's basically just some guy's trailer in the middle of the desert. And it's so... The guy comes out, and there's this really creepy guy who runs the motel. And, yeah, it's just weird. But in one of the scenes, it was so low budget, they were like, yeah, we're going to film it at night, because the guys would go out and try and fix the car. Even though they don't explain how the car... The reason they stopped the motel is because the car broke down, but they drove to the motel. And so they just park, and they're like, yeah, the car's broken down. They just get out and go inside. Like, okay, whatever. But anyway, so they're supposed to come out and try and fix the car at night, and they thought I don't know if they thought it was a good idea or they just couldn't afford lights. But the only light in the scene is the flashlight the guy is holding to try and fix the car. So he walks down the stairs of the trailer and walks over to this, like, 1950s Ford, opens the hood, and then you can't see a single thing for 8 minutes because the hood is blocking the flashlight, and it's just a pitch black screen for 8 minutes while the guy is trying to, quote, fix the car. And there's supposed to be suspense because, like, oh, someone could be sneaking up on him, but there's nothing. It's just a black screen and occasionally, like mechanic noises coming from the engine compartment. Like, it's just so stupid. And so that's what I see when I try and watch Justice League. It's just like, just make everything really dark. It'll work.
That's what you see in your mind's eye.
Yeah. We won't have to spend as much on animation for all these extra bits in the background if it's so dark they can't see it. Like, okay.
I only work in black and sometimes dark gray.
Yeah. Even when it's daytime out in the movie, it's just dark. Like, it looks like it's like the most overcast it has ever been in the history of the world.
Severely
at
polluted.
all times.
Just insanely polluted.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It looks like they're standing in a thunderstorm, except it's like noon and like there's no wind, and you're like, what's happening? The movie The Dark Knight had brighter scenes than Justice League. Makes no sense.
Oh, yeah, those were much better.
All right. Should we just get into it? We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, let's roll.
I'm good.
Let's roll.
Only a ton of stuff.
Parker, are you ready for the
Yeah.
news?
This is
You got all your
this is
stuff.
gonna be good.
All right, because we're basically just gonna let you go until we get to the actual spoilers.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to blaze through the teased the teased new models and the models shown, and yeah.
Do you have a comic corner today?
Yeah, it's for Spider-Man.
You do, okay.
If we want to do it.
Parker, what's the name of that? Never mind. We'll just not do that. I was gonna put in the speculation corner that the was it Shang-Chi?
Shang-Chi.
The martial arts dude, Shang-Chi.
Yeah, he's likely around the corner. I'm guessing War Machine's probably gonna come out around the same time. Armor Wars probably rolls out too. They're probably gonna be about the same time, or gonna try to be.
Yeah, we'll see.
News.
Nobody reads my news.
Nobody knows the news like your news.
Oh boy.
Too much news. Not enough Justice League
There was-
commentary. Fuck.
Did we talk about that after we started recording?
No, it's like all before. That was
No,
all
it didn't.
before.
I cannot believe they spent more on Justice League than Endgame. That's just insulting to people and money.
And money. Well, how many times did their sets sink? I mean, that's why you spend a lot of money, right?
I know, right? I work at a game store, so I get to listen to a lot of people's conversations. And unfortunately, working at the FAA, I had to be able to listen to 3 conversations at once. So I'd be able to listen to the guy I'm working with, the manager behind me, and the radio all at the same time. And you had to retain all of the information. And then I also had to be able to write down a different thing on a piece of paper that was unrelated to what was being talked about. So that took like 6 months to be able to do that. And so I unfortunately can listen to like 3 people have a different conversation at the same time. And I'm like trying to block it out, but I listen. And so like, I'm so tired of people talking about how the Snyder Cut is going to be like revolutionized. I'm so done with it. It's like, shut the fuck up. It's a bad movie. Get over it. The characters you like are dumb. Like, that's all I want to say to them every time they bring up Batman. I cannot stand people who are like, I love the Joker, I love Batman. It's like, they're empty characters. They don't do anything. They're the only reason they end up in these situations is because they're on hard rails to get into these situations, and it constantly happens. I'm so done with it. It's like, oh, Joker's such a great villain. No, he's not. He's a fucking psychotic idiot that could never accomplish anything if it wasn't for the writer determining that, well, he's got to get... Because Batman is conveniently the smartest man alive, the best planner, the best detective, and the best martial artist ever. Like, this is what they've decided Batman is in all of his storylines. And then it's like, well, we need this psychotic hobo to be able to kidnap him and hold him hostage for a monologue. And it's like, that's what the character is! Those are the two characters. And it's like, oh, it's like Batman, like his greatest nemesis is the Joker. It's like, how? Literally how? They never explain how he gets out of prison constantly. They never explain how he accomplishes all these great plots. It's just Deus Ex Machina written into the story. And they just don't care that it makes no sense. I'm so done with it. Batman as a character is stupid. Like, the only reason that he does all the, like, the Batman's done all these things, like, literally he has to. It's a comic book. Like the Flash can move at 100 million times the speed of light. It's been done in a comic. That doesn't mean it's interesting. Like, so dumb.
Does it have Gerard Butler in it? If it has Gerard Butler in it, then the new cut is going to be better. Because
I saw a commercial? Is it like Hercules in the movie now?
No, Zeus.
Who is it?
Yeah,
is
so
it Zeus?
it's the entire
Okay.
Greek. It's the entire Greek pantheon and like 18 other pantheons. Yeah.
And they all try and fight Doomsday and lose.
No, so what?
Not Doomsday.
It
Darkseid.
Darkseid. So yeah, basically, in the Snyder Cut, they do a flashback when Darkseid came to Earth the first time. When he got here, he didn't I guess he didn't know that the planet was full of gods and shit, and so all the Amazonians and the Atlanteans, the men, and every god, showed up to fight him, and so they. One of my favorite parts about it, the scene, is they're like, is you think, okay, so now it's going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight. They're going to be like on Mount Doom with Sauron, right? They're going to just barely win because they're going to cut off the ring like they did in the Lord of the Rings. Like, nope. They just punk his ass like a bitch. It's not even close. Darkseid loses like a motherfucker, and every human and every Amazonian is alive at the end. Every god wins. Darkseid, he loses his entire army, and Darkseid gets thrown back into his ship, and he barely survives, because Zeus attacks him with a bunch of lightning bolts. Because Zeus hits him with a bunch of lightning bolts. Darkseid, his only weakness, lightning. And he just happened to come to a planet where there was a god of lightning. So
it's a good thing there's no superheroes in the DCU that use lightning bolts and magic to attack people.
There are
right?
so many.
Oh, wait! There's a bunch!
the first thing I thought out loud was, you know what? It actually makes a little sense. If Darkseid was from Apokolips and his biology was based upon Apokolips, based upon what I understand about Apokolips, there's probably no lightning there.
That's fair.
Lightning is
point, bro.
Lightning is, as far as we know, an entirely terrestrial phenomenon. We do not know of it. Oftentimes in movies they put lightning in like random shit because it's dramatic to us here on Earth. But as far as we know, lightning may only exist on Earth. So if Darkseid came to Earth...
Parker, as a man of science, I feel like you should know that's not true.
If Darkseid came to Earth and he looked around and he was like, what's this shit coming out of that guy? And it was lightning.
That bright shit over there.
He might go, fuck is this? And lose. And this,
I like that.
And just be
the
like,
fuck is this? It just like gets blown up. He's like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. You just, did anybody know they had that? And that was
ultimate comic book for DC. Joker shakes Darkseid's hand. He's got Buzzer on his hand. He just kills Darkseid.
Yeah, he's like, does anybody who
the Joker defeated him, guys? That's basically how I view the Joker.
We knew about the axes. We gave everybody in our army an axe to fight their axes. We knew there was going to be axes. Nobody told me about lightning. That was dumb. OP as hell. I can't go fight that.
I mean, to be fair, no one on our planet shoots giant energy beams out of their eyes.
That's
I mean,
right.
That's fair.
I was
That
gonna
they
say-
have stuff we don't have. We have stuff they don't have.
Right. He does have infinity powerful energy beams that never miss.
I bet you know what they also probably don't have in Apocalypse World? Shake weights. I bet he's vulnerable to shake weights.
What the first thing I thought is after I saw that is I went, did they explain in the DCU? Oh yeah, they did. Ares killed all the gods, right? Ares killed them all. He went crazy and killed them all. I think they actually explained that in the Wonder Woman thing, is that Ares actually went crazy and killed all the other gods. So that explains why Zeus doesn't just do that again whenever they show up again.
I heard you came back.
But there is a Captain Marvel, and he's in the DCU, and he also is magic lightning bolt user. So
I was gonna say, isn't literally like Shazam in the DCU now?
Yeah.
They did the movie.
yeah,
Why doesn't Shazam just show up and literally do anything?
if he would have showed up, and I think if he just does,
Thanos-
if he does
Not
one
Thanos.
thing,
Darkseid would just ran.
Darkseid's like, oh god damn it!
I've seen this before. Guys, I'm out.
Second verse, same as the first. I'm out.
That's it. Need to do some research.
But yeah, I'm just so tired of DC characters. They're all so bad. There's a couple like for example, like Shazam is actually like a semi-interesting character because he's
Yeah.
like a kid and he's got like these hardships. He's like you come back to Batman, and every DC fan apparently wants to see two things. It's
The
fucking
Joker.
Harley Quinn in short shorts and Superman versus Batman like erection fight. I just don't understand. Like, it's not interesting. One of these characters literally cannot win. Like,
I have only ever turned off one movie my whole life. I will watch any movie. I turned off Batman vs Superman whenever Batman showed up in the desert with a trench coat on. When I saw Batman in a full cowl, no cape, and a trench coat, I stared at it. I remember
well, the cape was under the trench coat.
things were happening in the scene.
Mhm.
All I could think about was the trench coat. And I was staring at the trench coat going, why does he have a trench coat?
Because trench coats are badass.
Yeah, that's the only reason.
Yeah.
Everyone around him was wearing a trench coat, so he also needed to wear a trench coat. But I stared at it for a long time, going, surely there's a reason to have a trench coat. And then I thought, wait a minute. So in your mind, people who wrote this movie, Batman would go to the desert and think out loud to himself.
Well, he didn't say it out loud. I said it to himself.
Oh, okay, say it to himself. He'd look around and go, oh man, everybody else is wearing a trench coat. Hey man, do you have a trench coat? He's like, yeah, but they only fit normal people without giant suits on. I'm going to need you to get a really oversized trench coat. He's like, but we don't have those here. Why would we have like a quadruple XL trench coat hanging around for you? Also, it'd be too long. It'd be dragging the ground. Okay, well, get a seamstress to hem that shit up.
No,
I'm not
he goes-
I'm not going into this desert unless
He
I
goes
have a
to the
trench
wide
coat.
store, the tall and wide store, where they sell wide trench coats.
What is going on here? What
And
planet am I
Parker-
living on?
Parker, I'm going to attempt to rebuttal in the exact same mental state of a DC fan. Are you ready?
Okay.
He's rich. He can afford a custom trench coat.
I
That's what they would say.
I get how he could get one. The point is, why? Like, why would he want one? And the only thing I could think of was he saw everybody else doing it, and Batman bows to peer pressure. Which is
Yeah.
he's like, if he was, so in that same scene, if everyone were smoking a cigar, he would have been like, fuck, and he would have started smoking. Like, that's just what he would have done, because everybody else was doing it. Looked pretty badass. I got.
Okay, so
I actually
you
turned off
guys
the
are
movie.
caught up.
I turned off the movie.
You guys are. Well, Parker, I assume you know this at this point, but that was like a nightmare he had. Like, it's actually a bad dream that Bruce Wayne was having. That never happened in real life, in canon. Like, that he was actually having a dream.
Oh.
And so I'm sure someone will try and explain it away as like dream state, weird shit happens. But yeah, it was like his nightmare of a post-apocalyptic future or some shit. Which, because he also shoots people with a gun, and everybody knows Batman can't use guns.
Mhm.
He's incapable. His hands don't work. He's holding a gun.
Honestly, I didn't even notice he shot a gun because I was too
You were
busy
so
looking
busy looking at the trench coat. You're like, what? That motherfucker wearing a trench coat?
the whole time, all I could think of was the trench coat, and it wasn't even like I watched it and after a minute and a half, I noticed he was wearing a trench coat. It was the first thing I saw. It was the very first thing.
You guys are caught up on Rick and Morty, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you remember the Heist-tron episode, right?
Yeah.
You son of a bitch.
That is all DC storylines that involve Batman.
Yeah.
There's like, well, actually, I knew the whole time. It's like, that's the entire storyline that ever involves Batman. I'm just so done. Like, it's not interesting. It's not funny. They don't even explain how or why they knew. It's like, well, Batman knew 8 months ago that, this die was going to roll a 5, so he won the gambling. And you're like, what? Like this didn't even make sense. They didn't even like follow this plot line at all. There's like, nah, he knew the whole time. It's fixed.
That's those storylines that play with those. I'm going to actually say there's actually one Batman storyline that I actually there's one DCU universe that has super compelling stories featuring Batman, and it's the animated movies. The modern animated movies are really excellent because all of them play into that part of Batman. In one of them. The Injustice League, right? The bad guys basically need to incapacitate the Justice League. So what they do is they infiltrate Batman's Batcave because it's fucking Batcave, so they find it, and they take his plans. He's determined a way to murder or neutralize all the Justice League, like because that's the first thing he did when he met them, and so they take his pragmatic solutions and they turn him against him, and then he undoes like the work because he understands. Once he figures out the pattern, he realizes what's going on, and so part of the movie, one of the main conflicts in the movie is everyone in the Justice League versus Batman, because they're like, dude, what the hell? Like, we're supposed to be a team, and you're just describing ways to kill us, and you have it written down. He's like, yeah, and he says out loud, if anybody in here didn't think for 1 second about the absolute horror of an out of control Justice League, that I don't belong here. And he mic drops and he leaves. Like he's ready to quit. I'm just like, that's a great Batman. Like that makes sense with this character that they've painted, right? He's not out for truth and justice. He's like, I solve problems. If you aren't solving problems or you're going to be a problem, well then I'll get you out of the way or I'm leaving. Peace out. Like I liked that. If anybody here has never watched the animated movies, that Batman, and then there's another one where they explore that concept, which is they go to an alternate universe, they get embroiled with an alternate universe that is got an evil Justice League in it, and their version of Batman basically goes off the deep end. He looks into the dark abyss that Batman looks into, and he blinks, and he goes crazy too. And he's like, "Yep, everybody's gonna die. I'm a super genius. I'm a super genius with incredible money. So you know what? Fuck it, let's go straight nihilism." And he just decides to the best thing he could do to deal with the inevitability of chaos and injustice is to just eradicate everything. And so that's his plan. And so he figures out how to do it. And he's like, this should eradicate everything. And then of course it's the Justice League's job to stop him. But those are the only super compelling Batman stories I've ever heard, because they actually, I think, stay true to the concept of the character, unlike he was wearing a fucking trench coat. I don't know. I mean,
the animated stuff for DC is generally their best stuff, and I've seen both of those things that you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
They were okay. I let you explain it because people at home might not have, but
yeah,
they were okay. But yeah, there's also parts in those same ones that are really bad, and it's just like perfect example of like good well written Batman versus poorly written Batman. They're trying to basically interrogate Killshot, I think his name is, the guy that Will Smith played in the Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
I think it's Killshot or Deadshot or whatever the fuck his name is. Deadshot. So they're trying to get information from him, but he doesn't want to cooperate. So Batman pulls him aside, and then safe distance so you can't hear what he's saying. Batman says something to him, and he immediately cracks and gives up the information, and then he won't tell anyone what he said. That's terribly written. That's because you couldn't think of anything cool enough for Batman to say to make this scene move on. So you had to go he said something Batman-y, and we move on. That's dumb. That is clearly just terribly written. And it's and then the next scene, or the next part, is they're on Apocalypse World trying to fight Darkseid. And basically Darkseid has beaten Wonder Woman and Superman and all these, he's beaten everybody up, and then Batman walks in, he's like, hey, you need to basically give us what we want and or else. And he's like, why the hell would I ever do that? I've already won. He's like, well, I've activated all your like boom tubes or whatever, and they're all gonna basically go nuclear on your planet in like 3 minutes. And he's like, you wouldn't do that. Like, I'll just beat the code out of you. He's like, you know you won't beat the code out of me. I'll die first. And he's like, fine. He's like, you guys can go. And he's like, he gets to leave. It's like, he actually, like, I could believe that Batman had a strong enough force of will to sacrifice himself and all of his friends and murder an entire planet of people.
Yeah.
To save Earth. I could see that happen.
Yeah, he says that he beats them to a pulp, and he's like, I'm not going to tell you, and he's choking him with life, and he smiles and he goes, you know what? If the Kryptonian or the Amazonian would have tried this, I knew they were bluffing. But you're Batman, so yep, you would definitely murder everyone
because that's showing that he's willing to make sacrifices, including his own life, to solve problems, which is actually something that Superman very rarely ever does, is sacrifice anything. And he's always like, well, I'm perfect and amazing, so I guess I'm just gonna brute force my way through this problem until it goes away. It's like basically Superman in every situation, and it's just like, okay, whatever, this isn't interesting. But yeah, so those are like the two perfect mirrors of Batman. It's like one of these was well written and it's interesting and compelling, and the other one is like, Batman's cool and said something, so good stuff happened. And you're like, there was really no point to this entire conversation.
Yeah.
It's like they created a problem and then solved it without doing anything. Like, it's so garbage, and that's so much of Batman. I'm just so tired of it. And I have to listen every day when people are like, oh, Batman's so cool. I'm like, oh my god. Like, again. Anyway.
Well, I'm the one that wasted a huge part
now-
of my life one Saturday morning to bring this subject to light. That way we could go through it, the nuances. Let me recommend. I'll make a recommendation. Just
Don't watch
go
Snyder
to the
Cut.
last 45 minutes and watch. You'll be pleasantly surprised. You'll get to see with the updated CGI. It'll be fights the whole time. Nothing interesting will happen with the characters because you already know all of them. You don't need 3.5 hours to build a fucking character that you already know. Guess what Flash does? He runs real fucking fast.
Runs real fast.
What do you know?
Well, it turns out all the Snyder Cut is they tried to shoehorn in shit from their animated movies into a live-action movie. Is literally all they did. They're just like, can we wedge and hammer this shit in any harder? It's like, remember that time in Flashpoint when this thing happened? Let's just literally carbon copy that scene into this movie. That's all they did.
Oh,
It's
really?
like, oh my god. There's multiple points where that happens. Yeah, they
Oh.
just like, remember people liked this, and they just hammer it into a like hard cut insert paste, like done.
So I'll be glad in a month when
But yeah.
I don't have to see that shit on every feed every day.
Yeah,
That's true.
I like-
Jesus, it is everywhere
Yeah.
right now.
it is everywhere. This is how bad people wanted the Snyder Cut to happen, because they had this like flawed logic in their brains. It's like, well, Justice League was only not a perfect movie because they wouldn't let our Messiah Zack Snyder do what he wanted. And it's like, what? Like how did
Our
you get to
Messiah.
this point? Like, you were given any information, and that's where you got to at the end? Like, what the fuck is wrong with your brain? You should not be allowed to handle forks. Like, just stop doing anything. Oh my god. Yeah, so the amount of times I've heard people like, oh, wait for the Snyder Cut, they'll fix it. Like, oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah, let's let this one.
I'm sorry
die
you
on
have to
vine.
do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. Sometimes my life is hard, but I'll remember that I don't have to listen to people talk about the Snyder Cut.
Oh God.
Yeah, I like to imagine that they spent $30 million on CGI and they couldn't even make Henry Cavill's face look right. Because the original cost of, what was it? It was $328, I wanted to say? No, it was $228, I think. Fuck, I forgot. I have to look the numbers up again. But it was, it was $270 for the original production of Justice League. And then they had to do an additional $30 million. Yeah, it was $275. They added another $30 million for all the changes that happened in post, which was they had to reshoot Henry Cavill doing stuff, and then they had to CJ off his mustache he was growing for another movie,
Mhm.
so his face looked all weird. And so that was what $30 million got you, was a weird-looking Henry Cavill.
Oh, jeez.
And then $100 million got you Snyder Cut. So he fucking spent $400 million for Snyder Cut. Jeremy, was it worth... What is that? That's like $1.3 million a minute? It's something fucking absurd like that. Was it worth it, Jeremy?
Absolutely. 100%. I think everyone needs to sit through it and do a book report.
I bought... It wasn't enough that I just play it on constant loop in my house. I had to buy a second TV. And so I'm having it playing... When the first one got halfway done, I started the second one, and now they just play on loop forever. And that's just my house right now. It's just Snyder Cut Infinite double take.
It was funny because I did get a little hyped, and I was like, you know what? Maybe it wasn't that bad. And so I got a little excited, and I started watching, and I'm like, this movie's still a piece of shit. Like, it really is.
They just added more shit onto this shitty movie.
Go ahead, Parker. What was that?
I was gonna say, if you want to, speaking of movies that have really horrible CGI that you can't stop looking at, I made the mistake of watching Tron the other day.
Oh God!
Not the original, the Disney
new one.
Yeah, the Disney new one.
To be fair, that was super early on into the face swap technology.
Yes, also
like, super early.
Yes, it just does not age well. I will say this, however, I actually really liked that movie. I know a lot of people did not, and they couldn't get over the bad CGI. I actually really liked that movie in general, but every single time Clue shows up, the character Jeff Bridges' younger face character, every time it shows up, I immediately go, ugh. Like I'm physically like cringing a little bit. Like,
I showed you the opening scene of Lockout, I think is the name of the movie, right? The movie where Guy Pearce goes into space and does Escape from Space.
I don't think so.
This was a movie, oh god, I want to say it was like 2010 era. And it's Guy Pearce is this roguish outlaw, and he gets arrested. And they're like, hey, totally not Snake Plissken. We need you to go to space and rescue the president's daughter. Does this sound familiar at all? And it's like, and if you don't, you're going to go to prison for the rest of your life. And you're like, I guess I'll go to space. And so they send him to space. He has to sneak onto this. It's a prison in space. And so it's called Lockout because you have to get out of the lockout. And so the prisoners have taken over while the president's daughter was visiting. And so they've kidnapped the president's daughter. So he has to get there, get the girl away from them, and then get off the space station. They're just going to like blow it up or whatever. like fuck the prisoners, they're dead. Like, so... Yeah, but the opening scene, it was like they realized they never shot the original 3 minutes of the movie. And so they, like, in post, had to put Guy Pearce on a motorcycle chase. And the whole thing looks like a 1995 video game.
What?
Oh,
It's so
no.
horrible.
Spy Hunter?
It's so bad.
No,
Oh my God.
No,
It looks like GoldenEye. It's so horrendous.
Oh my God.
It's just like, but it's the opening scene.
Oh.
It's cringe on cringe CGI.
So it really
and
sets
it's like,
the tone.
Yeah, exactly. But once you get past that, like, opening 3 minutes, the whole movie's fine. Like, it's a bad movie, but like visually, it's fine. It's so bad though.
Oh.
Let me see.
Oh, we totally forgot something in the news. The civil.
I started typing Lockout, and it just finished it with bad CGI.
I just realized we missed something in the news. The Civil War thing. Why did I have not heard about this?
Civil War? Oh, it's because it's like all online stuff, right?
Yeah, but they're actually doing something where you can report the results of your game online to Atomic Mass Games, and they're gonna calculate it. That's tight. I like that a lot.
Man, I can't find this link. I'll send it to you though. Chase? Lockout chase scene? Ooh, here it is. Ooh, this looks bad. Alright, I'm gonna post it in the chat. Ooh, it's so bad. Yeah, it's not a motorcycle. He's riding a unicycle.
Oh no.
It's a motorized unicycle. Oh my god, it looks so bad. He's making a phone call, doing 100 miles an hour on a motorcycle.
Holy
And it's
smokes.
just spinning 360. It looks like a video game. This doesn't even look real.
His face is so blurry.
And this isn't like bad YouTube quality. This is how it looks. Like they just like just scenes where it's like that's obviously just a rectangle spinning. Like it doesn't even look like a motorcycle in the middle of the thing. It's so bad. Yeah, Google or YouTube lockout chase, and it should be the first result.
It's also in it's in the Discord.
It's in our Discord. I'm telling the fans if they want to watch it.
Oh.
That's yeah.
Sorry, I was too busy listening to that rip-roaring thrill ride.
So bad. The rest of the movie though is fine. It's just a dumb movie.
Oh yeah, the part. Oh, he's on the phone. That's so bad.
It's doing 100 miles an hour on the phone. The worst part is when he drives into the building. There's a few frames where it's obviously just like someone has like drawn in MS Paint a motorcycle. Like it looks so bad.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah, it's pretty awful. All right. Well, that should be good for us. Let's go ahead and get out of here, guys.
Yeah.